Internet, Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. That makes you paid for. That means you're immortal now, and he's not going to be long anyway. This is Christianity. You should think about joining us. And you found Stop the White Noise with Jonathan and Meridith. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Meridith.
And we are here to help you not wallow in the mug with those who have no hope, but to lift up your head, to walk upright as you see the day of Jesus Christ approaching. So, we were just talking about the weather a moment ago and what a lovely spring day it is, but I do have at least one public service announcement to get out right away before I forget about it, and it has to do with the sound in the podcast version of this show specifically. There is, for some users, or all users, a little bit of a challenge there, and we're going to work behind the scenes over the next couple of weeks to try to resolve this. I've kind of known from the start that something isn't right, that I could have more control over our sound than I do, but I just don't have the desire at all to learn what that means. And, things like the path of the moon are more inspiring to me at the moment. So today's a midway point, and the moon is going to rise at noon 30, which is a fascinating thing. Anyway, it's all about gravity in my head. The point here is I don't really want to study how to do sound, audio tech, but there's some people who are glad to share their knowledge with me and help me figure it out over time via direct messages and stuff. So we're gonna work on that for everyone. The sound on YouTube's fine. It's just from YouTube to the podcast, which is post-processing, and I honestly don't have my finger in that. I got all friends, all network dispersed friends, Christians who volunteer to be part of the Mad Christian Network, who manage all of that for you out there. So if you're listening to this on Transistor, or anywhere, we're really iTunes, which comes from Transistor, there's at least two other people between me and you making this happen, and so cleaning up that system, that process, especially if it's on my end, that's the hardest part. I'm always the logjam. Everyone else is more efficient at their computer fixing than I am. But in order to keep doing what I'm inspired to do for you, which is then making the show with you, Meridith, it means not getting too caught up in pieces that aren't impacting me directly. But now this has gotten loud enough to impact, and we're on it. Goal is to fix it, but it won't be fixed right away.
What's happening? I don't.
So somehow, when it gets to podcast, you just have to turn the volume up. You ever get a track? This happens like one out of every so many MP3 tracks. I have no idea why. Like, it can be on a CD sometimes, right? And it's just that one song. You're like, oh, I got to turn it up. And then the next song comes on.
Really loud.
Yeah. And so it's that kind of effect is happening for some users via podcast. And it has to do with the something line balancing equation. If I speak in Greek, would you think I knew what I was talking about? It has to do with the tone. That's what it has to do with. So I don't know. We're going to try to find some step-by-step troubleshooting with the Better Than AI actual people that are going to bot converse me via PM and find our way through this. So for all you out there, that's on the way. Including also on the way then, questions about artificial intelligence again. Questions about, where's my card? They're good questions today. Questions about Jesus Christ being Lord. Follow-up on Jacob at the Jabbok, the whole wrestling with the angel thing from a week or two ago. And then, life, homeschool, cramming, too much stuff, busyness, and all that. Question about that. So all that coming your way as Meredith and I also try to figure out what our life looks like in the Babylon that is this present beast. And walking smoothly this week, though. I don't know. Was it the beginning of this week or was it last week that you said to me, I'm in the weeds?
Oh, yeah. I think that was when is the beginning of the week for us?
Monday.
It's odd.
I'm just thinking of Monday, right? Was it Monday that you said that to me, or was it like last Thursday or last Monday?
I don't remember, to be honest.
I feel like it was right after fellow number one departed from the Hebrew Collegium, the next day.
Yeah, I feel like.
So I feel like it was like a Monday ago. Like we're looking at 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So then, how's this week been by comparison to that week?
To be honest, I had a lot of time where I had to just carve out space to get stuff finished and off my to-do list. I mean, primarily the budget work that I do, the financial tracking that I do for our family, but then also for our Dark Shore not-for-profit.
That's what it is.
And so that, and then when we do have students leave, there is a little bit of cleanup that has to be done. Not that they leave messes necessarily, but there's a hole in the wall and that needs to be fixed, or there's
micro busy. It's micro busy though. Yeah.
The little stuff that you have to just maintain right away, because then if another visitor comes, oftentimes a visitor will come in the midst of other busy, and so putting those tasks off doesn't always work well.
Yeah.
So so it was that, and then we get to prepare for this weekend, and just what does that look like? What
oh my. Are you coming to the Sons of Solomon Memorial Day muster? 4th annual.
Yeah.
4th
really
annual.
Exciting.
And a good time to be had by all. Really going to emphasize for those who come this year, take a risk and talk to someone at the parade and hand out a Sons of Solomon booklet. And I'm going to try to get a couple of us to stand together and just have a pile of them in our hands, so it's obvious that we're canvassing.
Doing something.
Right, yeah. We don't want to throw them to the wind the way you would with a canvas flyer. We don't have that kind of funding. But yeah, excited. Oof. 4th annual.
So we get to prepare for that, and what does that look like? What does that mean? If we have people touring Hebron, what do we want to make sure that we're what little things that we haven't done do we want to make sure we do, so that people can have that full effect when they walk through. So
that mold that was growing on the walls, we had to get rid of that this week. Right? It is not that bad at all.
No, it's just stuff we haven't hung the crucifixes that we bought.
The library,
it
would be good to get that done. The library, I had let things intentionally muddle on the table to kind of have some stuff come together there, and I went down and tidied that up and left 2 books.
Good.
It looks pretty.
Nice.
It says who we are. That kind of thing. So that kind of work though.
But yeah, I was blessed by a request from a long time viewer.
Yeah, right.
Who, this is before my time of being on the show. I was behind the scenes when she started and started watching you. And she requested the opportunity to come and, in her words, shadow me for a time. And whatever that meant, just be next to me while I was doing every task of my day. So after bringing it to the family, everybody was really excited about the idea. And so we accepted the request, and she was able to come this week, Wednesday to Friday. And she literally just walked beside me doing tasks. And we did everything from completely cleaning out the chicken coop to a stretching session on the threshing floor mats, to she's an amazing weeder. I had goals for weeding, but I didn't expect to actually
which is really
them.
cool here. So in a I'm gonna just break this down. In a intentional master apprentice, master disciple relationship, you went from being in the weeds to, in fact, more productive because of the learner that was beside you to learn.
Oh, yeah.
And saw the opportunity, but that involved then doing the work you were doing rather than just kind of watching it, the way you would TV, perhaps, right?
Yeah.
And so that really benefited you, and I believe it really benefited her.
As she kept saying it did, so I'm going to just believe that.
And all
it
this
felt like I was the winner on this.
No. No, I watched. She had a great time. So she had a really good time, and she was a blessing to have around. And the kids.
It was the kids last night. I was saying goodnight, and our oldest actually, she was like, it's really nice to have her here. I kind of miss her.
So what I like about this is a model that can be replicated anywhere by simply finding an older Christian woman who you respect and saying, hey, can I follow you for 2 days?
Yeah.
I'll do whatever you say. Just let me follow you for 2 days. Just Doesn't have to be Meredith Fisk. I mean, that's great, and maybe once in a while, right? Like if you're special and write a nice letter, but like, we're not necessarily opening up the world to. We have the time to always be master apprentice masters. But the patriarch principle of the Sons of Solomon is this idea that you have to have master-apprentice relationships, and that if you want to be a disciple of something, like, choose your master wisely, right? Like, just don't imitate everything and anything that comes down your way, and certainly not what's got the glossy shine on it, bling, bling, come get me. So, yeehaw. Yeah, that went well. So then you got out of the weeds by getting the weeds weeded.
We weeded.
Yeah,
we did.
Oh man, we all the way home too from we weeded. I can go there. So, all the things that they taught you though too, even that little pigs. Is that an Aesop's fable?
No.
Where does that come from? This story of the 3 little pigs. I wonder now.
Wouldn't that be a fairy tale?
Is it?
Is it a fairy tale?
I don't know.
It's not an
Mother
Aesop's
Goose.
fable.
It's probably Mother Goose.
It's not a fable.
Who's Mother Goose? And when did she supplant Aesop's fables?
Mother Goose is like the nursery rhyme type thing. So all of the it's like satire, but also hidden messages about the governments of the time.
Okay.
So there's the blackbirds in a pie. I do not know the nursery rhymes very well because I did not. My ignorance, I guess, as a young mother,
I'm wondering about these
things.
I'm not so sure these are good things as I pondered them. So I don't know. What's the history of Mother Goose?
Tom Thumb, not Tom Thumb, the guy who stuck his thumb in the plum.
Yeah. Say what a good boy am I. Yeah, these are like all
mice.
Political. Yeah.
All these things have.
Right.
It's akin to John's writing of Revelation, where it's a little bit of a hidden message speaking against what's going on around.
Yeah, apocalyptic.
So
cool.
So I don't know, honestly, where the 3 Little Pigs fits in, but in my classic fairy tale books that I've gathered for the kids, the 3 Little Pigs is in there.
Yeah.
With, Cinderella and Little Red Riding Hood. I mean, Cinderella is not exactly on the same level as Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Again, I mean, we're gonna have to chase this some other time, I think, because this could go really deep. Like, if you look at the authors of the myths, call them fables, call them poems, that we consider childworthy, in theory, because of wisdom. Right, Aesop's fables about wisdom, right? Like in theory, that's why we do this for children. Is we give them these things to help them grow. But I'm really curious about like the timeline of like Aesop versus Mother Goose versus Brothers Grimm, right?
Yeah,
and
and
like
then
put them all.
Hans Christian Andersen, which is different.
Put
than
them
Grimm.
all on a chronology that's thematically interlaced with the right things. Like, why are these things moving spiritually at the time? And then from there saying, do I want to put this in my nursery? Right? How has this conversation worked out so far? Did Mother Goose do good or ill? Did Aesop do good or ill to the civilization? Right? I think Aesop's here because he did good, but I'm not sure Mother Goose. This is my question. Like, it just didn't even sound good. Like, think about it. Like, if you goose somebody,
Dumpty. Oh, well, go ahead.
If you goose somebody, like that's not.
Well, Mother Goose. Okay, so Mother Goose is not a goose, is she?
I don't know.
I think she's a woman who rides on a goose.
Oh,
does she have a broom?
Even weirder. Yeah, right.
Because they get them. You have all these illustrations of the nursery rhymes, and it's like.
Goose means like to goof off or to be nonsensical. It's almost like the Far Side satire kind of thing. It's like goosey. Yeah, going on a goose chase. I mean, it's a word that just has a lot of negative thematic connotations, and not. I mean, foie gras would be like a good connotation of goose, but there's not, and even that's bad for like a lot of people. Like Peter's gonna scream about how you make foie gras. So, I don't know, goose, mother goose. Why would I want Mother Goose doing anything to me?
Well, I mean, and she has a story, so I just don't know what her story is. But then, as a homeschool mother who focused on classical education as my model. I did go to the Aesop's Fables more often than not. And now, as I study Proverbs, I'm noticing how much of Proverbs lines up with Aesop's Fables. So my just hunch is that Aesop's Fables are kind of going along the same lines as Hans Christian Andersen, where they're taking 10 Commandments, they're taking wisdom from Scripture and trying to make it into something that kids can meditate on or remember.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how many times the kids and I have quoted the one Aesop fable where the fox wants to get the grapes and they're up too high and so he can't reach them. And he walks away grumbling, oh, they're probably sour grapes anyway. And that's just the in man to be like, well, I can't have it, so I'm going to put it down. I'm going to make it seem like it's less than what it is so that I don't feel as bad that I can't have it. So I do know that that like the fairy tale, the idea behind Cinderella is to teach children the 10 Commandments, to teach children biblical truth. Now, Christ isn't ever mentioned in them, however. So it's just the moral
It's wisdom.
law.
It's wisdom, which the fullest expression of the wisdom revealed by God is the kingdom of Jesus Christ. But wisdom is also built into nature and discoverable by anyone who pays attention long enough to what's going on. You can learn how normal is. And from that, this is God's wisdom, his design in nature. It's why evolution is ultimately nonsensical as its own claim. It claims that it's nonsensical, and so it is. And design is the opposite of that. I just was checking for Aesop's era, and it's debated 500, 600s BC. So this makes it, I think, very possible for, say, Solomon's empire to just have his language and his stuff just being translated within a generation or some odd before this. If it's not that, and Solomon is it would be after this, then you have a very different kind of thing, like a scroll of Moses falls into somebody's hands, and he, and he really studies it. But the idea that this is coming out of the influence of the central Abrahamic Christian faith, of the time, one way or the other, and if not Solomon again, so Solomon's Proverbs, by the time that Persia is having a fight with the Greeks, were well past Babylon, right? And Babylon is well past Solomon's kingdom. So all in that space, there's time for Solomon's writings to get there and to be read by a group of people, and then the great-grandson is a guy named Aesop, and he just has this understanding of how things work, and he sees it, and then he just does it in the Greek way, right? So it's I mean, I'm not saying that's how it happened. Like, please don't footnote me on that, out there. But it's not inconceivable, and we know that it's something like this, by and large. Although, again, I'll maintain you can discover a lot just by watching nature. You really can. Yeah. You really can. You just can't. You can't be redeemed by watching nature. That's what doesn't happen. You'll be trapped in a quest for self-redemption forever until you are initiated into the kingdom, till you're anointed in Christ. And then now you still have the carnal man around you, but you're in a different world. You're on a different planet, really, cosmically. Ooh, it's fun. Mother Goose. Yeah, maybe we'll come back to that. Because that was a tangent just from...
Yeah, so I got to experience the Titus 2 kind of woman side of life this week, and it blessed me greatly and helped me to actually, like you said, get out of the weeds.
Yeah, that's great.
So...
Yay.
Yeah. So it was an answer to prayer.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way you talked about... did I write that down here? I did. Carving out space to finish things. And that's kind of how the week felt for me too. And the biggest thing I wanted to finish, I didn't even finish at all. Although what I did get done felt like that was worthy. Okay. And if it took that long to do it that way, fine. Then that's how long it takes. And that was good to like come to that acceptance with the task itself, and then see that there were other things that were more pressing. So, I have this vision of starting a civilization, really, but a school that is devoted to the Psalms and Proverbs in the name of Jesus Christ, and understanding the discipline of manhood and womanhood via the stretching technique called jiu-jitsu. Since this is something I really am believing in, and I'm making application to the federal government for them to see that I believe in this, and so give me some tax credit in terms of the finances that I'm going to spend of my own money on this, actually, because we're already doing that, right? To see that that's what I want to have done, and then be like, okay, I need to work on this application when we need food. Like, you could get it done. You could have gotten it done. But if I just give up 3 hours of my day, then my community, my economy is going to be more in line with what my vision of this place is supposed to help people become somewhere else. And so why would I not do it here? So I have to actually sacrifice, the way I would want to achieve my project in the most efficient manner. I sacrifice it to the real goals of the space. And we're going to have to get that. But the fact is that it is better. It works out better that way. So I'll tell this story. It's fun. So what is it? It's Friday evening at 6 p.m. last night. We are going to go to Hebron to have a little Rooper float celebration for our fellow number 2 who's departing after his spring quarter, and to say goodbye, bid adieu, and pray for him. And a lot of the community kind of came around for that. So it's 6 o'clock Friday night. That's about to happen. We're not having our normal Friday night barbecue. We're going to move that to Sunday this week because of the muster and a bunch of other reasons. And so we're all just, as a family, 7 of us, about to run over. We see that everybody else is already over there, and the laundry room is flooding right at that moment. And to make things better, 3 days ago, we finally, after weeks, got our washing machine repaired. We have had to rely on help from others and do outside of house laundry for a couple of weeks to get the new laundry machine in. We're very happy with it. It works so great. And then, wouldn't you know, the sump pump just decides not to work. On what? On Friday, Memorial Day weekend, 6 p.m. Yeah, how fun is this? And so, but thanks be to goodness for Pearson Heating and Cooling here in the 815. If you are local, please. I mean, they're not paying me for this. I'm paying them right now. But, Pearson, we've been relying on them for heating and cooling for a while. And they are most professional. They get the job done and are very direct. And so, anyway, he's replacing parts or something, and then I think the actual motor, and then he discovered that the release of all of this is maybe not Illinois code, and not that everything Illinois code says should be on all things and all matters at all times is righteous. Sounds like it's pretty righteous code from looking at the description of what the alt version of the do-it-yourself home builder from the 70s figured out with his sump pump drain. So she's out there right now taking care of the need to pay for the work we had done this morning here, Saturday morning. They came on Saturday morning at 8:30. So, oh my. And while I'm sitting here alone in the studio with you, I'll just shift from that into what has been it connects to what we were talking about before she left, with carving out space to finish the things that matter. And I'm finding that I'm doing the same thing with money. Is that rather than thinking about strictly budgeting in the terms of savings, there's a reason to do that, and I'm not advocating anyone reject the Dave Ramsey concept of budgeting. But once you've got that down as your kind of standard, and you've got your underlying, we're in the black every month reality, right? Beginning to change your mindset on how you manage your household money from trying to save money and instead trying to carve out money to finish things, right? That is a mindset I'm embracing, and it's made things like our wonderful Pearson plumber saying that'll be 600, and I look at my wife and I go, yeah, look what I get to spend today. Hey, guess what? I got that. You know why? Because I was wise, foolish, you decide. For a lot of my life, I ran like a rat in a wheel, and I put away little pieces of paper as numbers in a bank somewhere. And right now, the WEF's telling us we're not going to even need to use it anymore. Sometime in the next 10 years, they've been preaching that. That's their thing. You will own nothing and be happy. So I did all that work. I might as well buy the new washing machine. I mean, I guess, if you're just going to take it all anywhere, get a washing machine while we can. It's like
so wonderful.
All your money is on loan.
Thank you.
All your money is on loan. And if you can think of it as loan, not from the feds, although it is, but from Jesus. And then say, okay, so what I have is what I have to do, what I need to do for the good of everyone around me today. Then when you got to replace a sump pump in your home that you hope to leave to your family, well, you're going to put a sump pump in, you can get those pipes done, and you know what, if it's month to month next month, then daily bread is the way it is, but I'm going to do what I've got rather than hold this stuff. I've been just holding to fear, really. I mean, I never thought I'd have enough money to live on, because I can see far enough that the financial system's getting scary on that, but I was always trying to save. And I'm just forgive me, you don't have to follow me. I'm done saving money. If I can't spend it, I'm not going to waste it. I'm not going to throw it away. I'm not just going to, but what's the point of saving money? That's the question I've asked, and I've decided there isn't one. I mean, Jesus comes back tomorrow. It really puts it in perspective for me. So I had it today, and granted, don't just go throw it at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation because you think you're going to do good for someone, right? Just giving it away to anyone, anywhere, isn't necessarily the right thing either. But the real thing is, what's the good nearby that you can do? What's the good nearby that you can do? And then if you're not sure about that and you're worried about losing out, well, look at your house. Take care of it, right? Where was I that I was looking at? I took a little detour yesterday through some of Rockford, coming back from Southside because that 20 is getting worked on. And looking at different yards in this neighborhood and how some were just immaculate and some were not immaculate. And you can kind of tell the difference between not immaculate and they're trying, and not immaculate and they're not trying. Care. And then there's this is the playground garbage lawn, right? There's that one, right?
Yeah.
And we've all seen it. Have zeal for your space. Have zeal for your space. Care for your space. So to rather than worrying about money all the time, care for your space. And if God demands that the money you thought you saved must be used for your space, it's probably good to take care of the issue. Thank God that's the whole point. It's I have the money to pay for this. Yay. Oh, that bill's not too big. Thank goodness. It's just enough. It just fits in, that's fine then, and to just believe that that's the way it's supposed to be, and it's kind of fun. I mean, I'm waiting for the begging for bread on the streets and stuff, but shoot at me when that happens.
What it sounds like you're talking about is the concept of hoarding versus putting away for a purpose, potentially. I mean,
that's what hoarding is.
If you have a wedding coming that you're planning, you do need to kind of set some aside.
The tension between planning and hoarding is very, I think a lot of it has to do with this. If you try to make rules, it won't work. You can't make a checklist for helping people not do this. It calls for wisdom. It calls for a way of looking at the life and the world around you. It's not wrong to have today. God gave me so much today. I didn't go gather extra manna. He didn't even give me extra manna. He gave me all his gold today. I can't even move it. It's too heavy. I guess I'll set it here. And tomorrow, if it's still here, when someone comes and says, I'm hungry, I'm going to be like, well, I don't have anything to help you with. No, now you can feed them, right? So to just look at everything you have that way. And if there's a milestone, Jesus says it this way, right? No one builds a tower without planning to build the tower, right? But don't build the tower as if you're building the tower. That's the Tower of Babel kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, you got two sides of that. Hoarding is the idolatry of planning for tomorrow.
Yeah. Something in there's a way that this has blessed our family. This concept has blessed our family in a very real way. Aside from today and our experience with the sump pump, but our oldest girls have been saving money for a car that she started putting away. How do you say collecting money?
Gathering
money,
gathering the resources to procure a vehicle, if you want to speak eruditely.
And she started this when she was very young.
Oh yeah.
I want to say close to 9 or 10. And then our other daughter did the same, except she didn't really want a car wasn't really top priority for her. It was more like, I have these ideas for a wedding that I would like to make sure I have. Like, I really want to have a photographer. And so I'm going to make sure that I have enough money gathered to pay to ensure that I can have that, whatever it is. I don't know exactly.
Right.
But, and then our family vehicle was totaled and
had an airbag go off and was declared a complete loss.
Yeah.
Because of the airbag, not because of the car. Just
Multiple
the airbag.
Airbags went off. And
maybe.
Yeah, I think the whole side.
There's a side. I think it was
had them on
one bag, but
all
because I had to move them to drive, so because I drove it back anyway. Doesn't matter.
And so for not the longest time. I mean, just almost a year. So that happened in July. Last year.
Yeah,
so
better part of a year. Yeah.
We have been experimenting with the idea of having 2 smaller cars that we don't all fit in. One's very economical, and one is more of a hauler.
Utilitarian.
Yeah. And
with nice rims.
Yeah.
My flesh got the better of me there. I like those rims.
And so recently, though, we were kind of wrestling with, like, is this where we want to keep being? Or with another driver coming into the family, do we want to explore this concept of getting
a third vehicle
that we can all fit in?
Yeah, but back off on that just a little. That, like, the goal had been to have 3 vehicles because I saw these 2 drivers coming. So as a father, I was like planning for that and expecting the need for another vehicle. And so I was trying to buy one so I could hop out and leave the little economic one for everyone to use and the big family one for everyone to use. And then it didn't work out because I made a bad left turn and got bumped on the back end. And our vehicle's fine. I could have just pulled the airbags off and had a dent door and driven that vehicle. The only problem is no airbags on the passenger side. Is that illegal? No, you should see what gets driven in Rockford. Oh my goodness, you should see what gets driven in Rockford. So we take a significant loss on this. Let's just short end it. I've got good coverage and none doesn't matter. I take a significant loss on this as a family, and I feel compelled to go buy a new vehicle so my family can all move around together. So my wife is safe in Rockford, moving all of her children around together. I've got to get us a third vehicle. How are we going to do this? Finances. Plan. Oh no. Pray. Just can't pull the trigger at all. Finally, my wife's like, I don't think we need one. Oh, I thought that through. Okay. And come back. Okay, well, let's try it. And we try it, and it's just working. It's working. We don't even need a third vehicle. And then, now, you can throw that part of the punchline in.
Yeah, and then we get, out of the blue, somebody at church comes up to you and is like, hey, do you guys need a vehicle for your whole family? And we're like, well, yeah, we've been kind of thinking about it. And he says, I've got this one that I was looking at for my daughter, but we don't need it.
Right. Well, and the connection is our daughter had wanted to look at another vehicle because she'd seen it by the roadside, the one who'd saved up some money. And she could maybe almost buy it, but she would need a loan from me.
And then a really intense job.
And, yeah, and stuff. And so we had someone look at it. So it became known, though, that this daughter was looking for vehicles. So the man who didn't buy this vehicle for his daughter, but there was nothing wrong with this vehicle. He knew the guy. It's kind of a handshake back connection of person to person. And it's a great minivan, would she want it? And then the daughter says, yeah, sure, let's look at it. And then?
So then, long story, like really long story, lots of prayers and family discussions later.
Yeah.
We decide to go in it in 3 ways.
Mm-hmm.
So one daughter goes in a third, another daughter goes in a third, and now we have a third.
Yeah. A little more.
In a third.
Better part.
And then we pick up like
it's a better part.
the remaining
There's a better part.
upkeep.
Yeah.
But
I'm not gonna split hairs on fractions. But,
yeah. But it has been a blessing for them to put their money that they had gathered into this, and the ownership that they've taken of the vehicle has been beautiful. Last Saturday, actually, they all got together and cleaned the car out.
The name.
The name is fun. I mean, there's so much in this little car. Do we go into it?
No, I don't think we need to go into it. I am going to say that the name is Private Jet. I'm going to throw that out there. That my children named the vehicle Private Jet because it feels like, they say, being in a private jet. So, and that kind of thing.
And part of being in private jet is that the glove compartment doesn't stay shut.
That's fun. That happened real fast. Right out the gates.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? If something's going to break when you drive it off the lot, glove compartment's okay by me. Right? That beats transmission because I've been down that road.
Yeah. So the concept of being in a private jet is that you can get snacks from any compartment anytime you want. So our private jet decides. So we're going to put snacks in there. So whenever the glove compartment opens up, it's private jet saying,
because where I'm at,
for snacks.
I'm ready for like the duct tape handle, like just a piece of duct tape that you unpeel and it opens, and then that's your handle.
You do like tape.
I mean, until we find some other way.
I was looking
what we need
at
is like a screw and a latch that twists, like a piece of screw it in, and it'll just twist and it'll hold shut.
I honestly think all it needs is for the metal piece that the clamp goes into just needs to be bent up a little bit. I was looking at it, and I think it just doesn't quite. It's gotten bent a little bit.
Bend the metal. So we'll try bending the metal.
But
anyhow, if that doesn't
for
work,
now,
the wooden latch.
Private jet serves snacks.
Yeah. Except
whenever you go over a jump.
It's an empty snack bin, though. There were no snacks yesterday.
No.
We don't want to leave too much meat inside your car. No. We've had this story before, too. It's not good. You had me thinking about something else, but now I've lost it.
So they're exploring and experimenting on that concept of not hoarding their money, but gathering it, and then when the opportunity comes, having the money to use. Yeah.
So the problem is not having a surplus. The problem is desiring to have a surplus so that you strive to have a surplus so that you can say, I have a surplus.
Yeah.
And then say, I won't need tomorrow, kind of. Biblically, that's the warning. Not so much like, oh, you sinner, you're going to get punished later. Like, no. If you're living like that, like you're punishing yourself right now. Like your life is worse right now. It doesn't have to be like that. Right. The hoarding fear that drives you, that's a false god. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you're not a Christian. It means that your carnal nature is telling your Christian how to live, and you're getting to have to just suffer that all the time. And I'm not saying that you get rid of that carnal nature. I'm saying you can fight back. Like you can fight back. You can tell your carnal nature that it doesn't get to do what it wants. And that's discipline. That's self-control. It's slow. It's hard. But I like that fight. Since I mean, it's not that Lutherans don't know this in our theology, but I think we law gospel our ways out of it a little bit, and it's not really law gospel. It's just law gospel. Our way out of it a little bit, where we just don't try because we think we can't succeed, and so we just kind of I don't know. But I like fighting back.
The concept of being given a gift and not using it or not recognizing it in its fullest capacity at the time that you have it and putting it aside. Okay, here, personal story. I had, when I started college, was given this little care pack, and in it was a piece of gum.
Well, that was great. This is fun.
So I was gifted a piece of gum.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, for me, gum has always been something that's like kind of a special thing.
Yeah.
So I saved my piece of gum for just the right moment. For when I would, really need that piece of gum.
It's bringing back like flavor memories to me now.
So I eventually, 2 years later, gifted this piece of gum to my fiance. And it was no longer gum. It was like petrified,
chalk.
whatever they make gum out of, guara.
Yeah, chalk guara, whatever. It was not a pleasant experience. Like, when you take something off your tongue feels like dry, and you can't get the dry off your tongue even if you put water on it. Like, that's what it was like.
It's kind of like eating 100% cocoa.
Yeah.
A little dehydrating.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
the point is I missed out on the gift because I was so concerned about using it and enjoying it at the right moment.
Saving it. And the language of the scriptures with salvation is not without pertinence here, that you're talking about saving things. That's a strong word for like holding it. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to hold this, as opposed to saving it. For what? Right? From what? And then again, the way we talk about saving time. How are you going to do that? Is time a person to be saved? Is it a thing? You can't put it in a bottle and it doesn't need to be rescued. Like, what's the language mean? Oh, it doesn't mean that it's a colloquialism. Okay. Why? Why are our colloquial ways of talking so ignorantly deceptive or misdirectional, giving more emphasis to things than they need, right? I need to talk about saving time. I need to talk about, again, having zeal for my space.
Mm-hmm. And
throw that through Einstein real quick, guys out there. If you have any space-time thinking in your head, I don't think that's disconnected either. Go.
This concept of saving time goes hand in hand with wasting, like you had said. And what happened to this gum that I saved? I ended up wasting it.
Yeah.
Like, so.
You ended up harming somebody else with it, actually. You did damage to the people around you. I mean, it's a nice Aesop's fable here, right?
It is.
Like, you end up doing the opposite of the thing you really wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's a good metaphor for the way it often does work out, right?
I remember a few years ago, Kuntz brought his family over on their way out to somewhere. They were doing something exciting, staying in a teepee.
Oh.
Yeah. And that night at dinner, you asked him, what do we do to prepare?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you know what? God has given us today and given us the gifts that we have today. And so there's no reason that we should turn our heaters down today.
Right.
Heat your home and thank God.
Right. Yeah. Do it and thank God. That's exactly right. So fix the sump pump.
And thank God.
Praise Jesus for it. Yigdal Elohim. Let God be magnified. God be magnified. Is there any other topical, fun, distracting, off the wall, Hebron related? Oh, I could connect it to what you just said a little bit. But if you got anything else, I want to make sure we hit it.
Well, it's been like a huge Hebron week for us. We had our first student leave.
That was last Friday. And
then we had 3 retreat center guests.
Right.
Which was such a gift and blessing
Absolutely.
to have them.
Yep.
They came on a Saturday, and then they ended up attending the men's group at church after. Were they there for church that evening too? They were.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. They went to all of it.
And then church on Sunday morning, they were unable to do both services on Sunday, even though they wanted to, just because their travel would have gotten too late for them. But it was such a gift to have them, and to have them over at Hebron and just sharing that space with them. We were left a wonderful note that talked about how the time blessed them.
My favorite piece of that note, the highlight, which shall go on the application for the 501, is time slowed down here.
Yeah. That was true blessing to us both.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Is that it slows down enough you can open your Bible for a couple of days. Let that be what you do. No, a couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months. Y'all got to try it if you can. Get a chance. Hebrew Collegium, HebrewCollegium.com. Hopefully some updates to that website come in as I continue to figure out the narrative that we'll be putting out for application. The clarity, though, of it is a space designed to enable biological males to pray out loud the Psalms and the Proverbs in Jesus' name while studying jiu-jitsu. Like that is Hebrew Collegium's purpose. So there's a lot more behind that. I think that opens a lot of doorways, but that's the clear direction.
And then my friend who visited was super excited as we toured and then worked on just doing a little cleaning over there, to have her husband come. And she's like, when do you think my husband can bring my son?
Anytime.
And I was like, he's 5 right now. So it was kind of like, well, whenever you think he can handle it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I said probably 10, but thinking like how would a young one
with
enjoy
where we are,
this space the
right.
most? And it's kind of like, 8, 9, 10 is probably the soonest that a young boy is going to be like, yeah, I just want to sit in a corner and read with you, Dad.
Correct. That's true. I think
but a 5-year-old,
where we are right now, it kind of depends on who's in the house too, right? So right now, and because we know them, right? So if they're listening, come for 3 days, you and your 5-year-old. There'll be a lot of space this summer. We have no residents scheduled as long as the calendar is open, and do a little retreat, you and your 5-year-old son, and see what you do for 3 days with the space, and we'll support that and treat it like it is with everybody else. And I don't, when there's a bunch of other people in the house, that probably would not be the
right.
So you're right about that long term.
You want to allow for the other retreaters,
right,
to have the quiet.
Absolutely. But since we are building a spaceship while on the rocket, and the rocket launched, okay, but we're converting the rocket into a spaceship while we fly. It means that there's going to be seasons of availability at Hebron moving toward the ultimate goal. And currently that season is, hey, you want to check it out? Come visit.
Absolutely.
Even a married couple, if there's no one else right now, we can allow it for a brief time. It's kind of like when the Mormon temple opens, you get to visit it for a little bit and then you can't go anymore. It's kind of like that. So, or if you're traveling, this summer through as a family, a one night stop, also, we'd be willing to kind of host that for one night. But
yeah, absolutely.
It gives you a little less access to all the space, and that's, again, we want to keep the monastic edge here, but we're development. We're in development, and so anyone who comes along and wants to help, we learn from you, you learn from us, and the place grows.
But as I was thinking about, we're talking about this little guest coming, little man, and I'm thinking about how valuable that is. I remember you taking our daughter on a business trip with you, when she was about 4.
Okay.
And that was so formational for her and your relationship.
Right, I bet it was.
And so, I think it is overwhelming for fathers to think, ooh, my 4-year-old, my 5-year-old, my 6-year-old, I don't know.
You're going to have to spend all your time with him. That's just, you got to be ready for that.
It's a different kind of retreat. The mindset would be a lot different as far as your focus.
I'm going to play with a child for 2 days straight.
Wow, you have no television. You can read through the catechism. You can read through the Psalms together. You can pray with him, and you can go on hiking adventures. We actually have, I think it's 20 miles of hiking trail.
I didn't know
at
that.
Anna Page,
Anna
just down
Page.
the road.
Yeah. That's real close though.
You can walk around our neighborhood. With my friend this week, I walked to the home she stayed at, and we'd walk back, and I was at one point I was like, recently Jonathan and I have been given the opportunity with him speaking more to go to different resorts and camps and things. So I've gotten to see different areas of the world and places where people go to vacation. And I realized in that process, I live at a place just like where we go to have you speak to people who are on vacation. It's crazy. Right. So walking around this neighborhood is very relaxing. for people who like to walk. for those of you who don't,
the space here is incredibly well thought through as a neighborhood. And you can talk about how they built their sump pumps, but they and the lake's got some issues, and on. But as a retreat, the place is retreatful, and it is it's a gift to live here. And that kind of gets to where I was going to come back to. You had said some stuff about living today, and how cool it is to wake up and say, "Oh, today I am the pastor who is stewarding this fellowship retreat, spiritual retreat center off this lake, and I just happen to get to live next door." And just rewiring my head. I mean, I own this house, so far as the bank is concerned, my name's on the mortgage, but it's like, why do I care so much about like my name being on it in some way? It's more that I have the opportunity to steward it today instead of worrying about what it's going to be in 30 years. I mean, I got to do that too, but now I get to steward it today. Yeah. And that's today, and tomorrow's another thing. So, your relationship with money, which is where a lot of this started, it is going to tell you how you feel about today and tomorrow. Really. And I'm grateful to be freely fighting back against just, I don't know, ways I don't want to be. I'm just tired of feeling that way. Weary of this. Like, why do and yeah, okay, so I find that, and then the carnal man does it again. Okay, so now do I think, oh, I'm a sinner, I can't purify my heart? Or do I think, that's the carnal man, that's why Jesus died, I hate that carnal man, I'm not going to let him get control of me today, not going to come out of my mouth? Like, I really prefer living that way. I don't know, I'm such a victim to my carnal man. Like goodness gracious. I don't know if it was gospel. I don't know if it was that did it to us, or to me, or if it's just, the journey I had to be on from, I don't know. But I'm glad to be pushing on today. It's good. It's so good. Today alone. Today I will feast upon the body and blood of Jesus Christ. It will not be the high feast service of the week, but nonetheless, the covenant shall be on my lips. And it's going to be late in the afternoon. It's going to be kind of warm, and it's going to be a small service, and the music will be a little slower than normal. And it's, but you know what? I remember what bread and wine taste like as I feast upon the body and blood of Christ. And I can remember that that's what I'm going to get. And I can look at that moment now as the moment the day is about. And then when that moment comes, I can pray to not miss it. Be there for that moment. As a pastor, that's hard, by the way, to be there at the moment that you're taking the supper. Usually you're already moving toward, people are coming towards you. You got a hand out, That is why perhaps they have, lay people give the Lord's Supper to pastors sometimes. And some guys practice that way, which is fine. I have reasons for doing it the other way, teaching wise initially at St. Paul. So, but today.
I was thinking about that concept about how people who are in the vocation of putting forth the service, like serving in a way, capacity, like pastor or musician or I don't know if it is as much with an acolyte or a crucifer, but I know Fides, our son, as he's been the crucifer for the season of Easter, has mentioned, I missed out on singing that song because I physically cannot hold the crucifix while singing. It's just that heavy.
Well, that'll change.
But anyhow, I experienced a baccalaureate this week, and for the local, a local high school, and I and I was kind of amazed. The music was incredible as far as how it was performed and presented. It was amazing, and it was held in a sanctuary that had a large pipe organ. So the sound, and it was built, I don't know, maybe 150 years ago, 140 years ago.
Something like that, yeah. Maybe 100 plus, definitely.
So the building structure is created to carry sound rather than stifle it. So the sound was incredible. And the prayers were prayed by somebody that I was not comfortable saying amen to. The sermon was preached in a way that I was, it saddened me that this was potentially the final
Lutheran
sermon that some of these kids will hear for a very long time, if ever, because the children who are graduating from this high school aren't always Christians. And then oftentimes, just let's get real, here in America, when our kids go to school, how often do we make finding a school that is close to a congregation that's one that they're going to visit throughout their 4 years? How often is that a priority above and beyond the programs that the school offers? So anyway, I was disappointed, but I thought to myself, wow, how does the musician handle being a part of something like this? And I thought, I bet he doesn't have the time in the evening to even notice what's happening, because his part of the service was so intense that he had to have been thinking about the next step.
Yeah.
Like,
it was, to some extent.
So this is me thinking about it, and you mentioning how, it's really hard to zero in on what's actually taking place during the service while I'm praying and while I'm speaking the various words of the liturgy, while I'm chanting. I, in the past, have been asked to do solos, and I haven't enjoyed that because I miss the entire service because I'm so adrenalized. Yeah, so my heart goes out to you. It is important to feed those who are serving. Finding a way to be fed is really important.
Yeah, well, it means at some point they have to believe that it's all happening without them and for them, and that any attempt to get it right, while good for the neighbor, if that's the driving spirit of the morning and the worship, then that will gradually crush you. So you can't always be focused on doing it right and doing it the best. Instead, you must find a way to have the word feed you the way that you hope it's feeding the people around you, which is then you find a way to listen. So when I do the readings, I try to listen to myself read the reading so that I hear the story. And I don't just read it the way I would to myself. I would probably be much faster as a reader if I'd reading it myself. So
that's interesting.
And when I get, you actually find sometimes I get nervous. I'll have these, kind of sideways fears that I made somebody angry, and then I will speed up a little bit in the reading. You'll even find I'll speed up in the reading. There'll be less inflection in my voice. And it's because I just can't pay attention to it because I'm physically nervous, right? But striving to be present, or distributing the hymns, or distributing the Lord's Supper. Yeah, you don't get to sing 3 of the hymns every week. It's that's kind of rough, and it's a lot of. They don't come around all the time, these hymns, right? So, and so it's kind of rough when you don't get to sing certain hymns. But over time, as a pastor, I don't think I go to church that much more than everybody, but I guess I go twice as much as most people. And for a while, I was going 4 times as much as many people, right? So, so I guess I go a lot. But what's cool is how I can now know the hymn that everyone else is singing. I can hear a lot of the words. I can come up with a line or two. I'll just sing that line as I walk over. Those 3 words, I'll just throw them out there. And it's really just about being at that communion moment again. And then trying to not miss, for me, the moment when I eat and drink, and to remember the for you at that moment too. Which, for the record, just turning me around, adding 30 more seconds to have me kneel and have the assistant give it to me wouldn't make me better at paying attention to receiving it. I'd still be thinking about getting back up to go get stuff from him, and it just adds more complication to the whole thing. So it's easier just to commune and then go. But I'm looking forward to that today, right? As opposed to so often it's just sort of like, okay, Saturday, get ready for Sunday, right? And this is a result of fighting to control my narrative with language on paper, telling myself what I believe so I can hear it again, and turning aside other messages, or making the message so, like, I just hate looking at it so much that I finally, I'm done with this. I'm not gonna be this way anymore. I'm sick of writing down. I need to change. I'm tired of that. Like, I'm done changing. I want to be, and that kind of thing. So, power. That gets to the power of smart notes and paper again. But,
yeah, I think that's good. That reminds me of, what the concept of being a wholehearted person, or a person that is who you are, to the fullest capacity.
Being tome.
And what does that mean?
Means
when you say that,
to be complete or to have integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Judge me according to my integrity, David says.
Integrity is honesty and sincerity.
Pretty much. You are not double-minded. What people see is who you are.
Right. And I think that's so hard for us to do.
Wouldn't you believe? Okay, did I tell you about this? So, like, Dr. Kuntz and I on A Brief History of Power. Check it out, abriefhistoryofpower.com. You will not regret the best podcast on the internet. We did a episode that involved the mound builders. We've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. Giants, kind of, that lived in America, and we have access to their religion. The summation of all of their religion was, don't let anyone know who you really are. That's the primary doctrine of their religion, was to always defend yourself against everyone. So think of the wickedness, right? And you said, this kind of comes naturally to us. Yes. To the level where we will be very religious about it if influenced by nothing else for a very long time. That's what we'll come to. Yeah.
But when you've met somebody who is just genuinely themselves, I mean, Kuntz, he's himself on the podcast. Yeah. He's himself in front of a classroom. He's himself in front of a congregation. Yeah. When you have him sit at your own table, he is the same person. Like, it's so compelling to be around a person like that.
Well, it's use a word,
relaxing. I mean, it is relaxing because calming, know what you're getting.
Calming. To use a word that's been kind of overly stolen from us, it's safe. Mm-hmm. Because you know what's going on. Whereas if someone is hiding something, or if the group is always hiding their something from each other and working in sort of like code with each other, then it's not safe if you don't know all the code. Right. If you're not really, then there's an inside outside for everyone all the time, and everyone's kind of jockeying to see who's inside, right? So tome, integrity of heart, a very biblical, proverbial, psalmic idea, is about being a whole person, being who you are. It doesn't mean, who I am, I have lustful thoughts, therefore I will be a philanderer. God made me this way, right? Like, no, it's not what I'm saying here. But that you would not be like, oh my goodness, I had physical temptation for a woman, I must not be a Christian. Again, like, nobody's going to be able to live a life without ever having a temptation. Temptations are sure to come. You're going to experience these all the time. So someone who has integrity is going to have integrity that, I got tempted by that this week. Again, always. My temptations are always my temptations. My flesh is always my flesh. Jonathan's carnal nature hasn't changed. It's still there. It does the same thing it always does. It's not getting smarter the way that Jonathan's inner man is kind of wised up these last few years. Thanks be to God, and hallelujah, let God be magnified. It's his word. So tome is the whole man, the person that you are, not hiding from anything that you are. And if you don't like what you are, change it or corner it, cage the beast, and then, act like a man. Tom.
So how do you spell that?
Hebrew
how
letters.
do you spell it in Hebrew?
I know. I want to just it's tau holom meme, final meme for those playing at home. Tom, like TOM, right? Or it'd be like T omega, tau omega. What's the M in Greek? It's not new.
Oh, goodness.
That's great. Anyhow, this connects very much to the word plereo in Greek, which is the word fullness or completion. Also connected to the word, that would be to fulfill, or to fill up. It's connected to the word telos. That's the fullness or completion word, the end word, often translated as perfect as well. But our English perfect carries moralistic tones to it, that tome and telos are not moralistic. They're about being whole. Or this is a really good way to think about it. So I use the word Americans are going to think of something being whole as something that we have to make whole. Right? So I'm going to talk about wholeness of person or having integrity. You're going to be like, okay, that means I need to add something to myself so I can be whole again. I'm missing something. But the word doesn't have to mean something's missing and then you complete it. The word can also be that it's what God made it to be, is how it is. It comes to you whole, and then maybe you destroy it and have to repair it. But whole is a starting position of how God made things. Tom is how God made things. Complete is how God made things. And we are, of course, watching how God made things have a fullness of time at the middle of a fallen history, which is a fascinating thing, that God's big enough to do all that at one time. Nonetheless, it doesn't change that the wholeness of wholeness is how a thing is, not what a thing must become. And so when Jesus says, or when David says, judge me according to my integrity, he doesn't mean like, look, I'm going to stand up on Judgment Day and because I'm so righteous, I get to go to heaven. Like he's saying, God, I don't know what's going on. And so, far as I can tell, I'm doing everything right. Can you, judge me according to what I see, or show me where I don't have integrity? So I can say, I hate that. And I'll repent of it before you and say, I hate that too. Because I want to be a man of integrity before you. That's integrity, right? To just be open fully before God. And then again, to connect that to the fullness of that's who Jesus is. He's the fullness of the revelation. He's the fullness of time. It is finished. It is tom. It is filled with integrity. All this kind of hovers together. And by the way, it will be kind of my topic at the ALELC, Association of Confessing Evangelical Lutheran Congregations event this July, talking about 1 Timothy chapter 1 and asking me to talk about a sincere faith and sincerity. We must have integrity as Christians. Like everyone wants to save, there's that save language, the Lutheran Church, by more Lutheranism. And I think we might want to repent as the Lutheran Church and pursue more integrity with regard to our Christianity. I think that's just how we should start, all of us, and that'll go a lot further. So going to talk about that more. Tom, though, just a huge thing. Look for integrity when you're reading the Psalms in the New King James. Sometimes it'll be the word perfect. You ever see the word perfect? You're like, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, probably just integrity then. And that means wholeness, not a goal, but what is. And truly, as a Christian, you can know you're promised wholeness in Jesus. I mean, you got righteousness and holiness. You're going to be whole. There's not going to be any missing parts. So you have integrity of heart, mind, and soul in the Christ who inhabits you. That kind of thing. I love that word. It's good.
Openness to the goodness, or being open to the goodness of God.
Yeah, that is what integrity must be. If you have any integrity, then you're gonna be a creature. And as a creature, you're gonna as a creator, and then you're gonna be, because he's good, open to his. Yeah. I would say that follows.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's also very much about like the kind of wellness mind of a Christian person too, like the human, with other humans, to be to be whole, or think of it this way: Gnosticism is very not tome. Gnosticism is so not Tom, because Gnosticism believes that real truth is knowledge, and that experience is mainly for experience sake, but is not the same thing as real truth, right? So for that reason, you can, in a Gnostic cult, do all sorts of things that are wicked, but it's not really a big deal because it's just your body.
Okay.
Okay. And as long as your heart's in the right place, who cares if you just scarred your face? You know, that's what we do because we love each other. You know, they'll talk that way. But so the Gnostic then is not whole. They've divided body and spirit, right? So Christianity teaches that you are given wholeness in Christ. So first off, is you're given it. You're whole, right? And that includes both creation and redemption. So let's just stick with creation though before redemption. The wholeness you're given in Christ is that you're a body and a soul, and then you definitely are filled with the spirit of breath, the breath of life. And so you have this soul, spiritual nature. You have this body, a physical nature, and then you have this interrelation with the energy of reality that comes to you largely at this point by means of air, and then the food that you burn with that air to have sight and feeling, all the things that, you know, whatever energy is does to your body, life, right, whatever it is. So, you know, you have, again, your body, your soul, and then this spirit. I'm not going to necessarily, you know, dogmatize that, but to understand what I mean by spirit is the life energy that God gives you to make your body and soul, nephesh, what you are. That all functioning alive is Tom, right? And if you take away the Spirit of God, so now the soul is taken to heaven. There is no breath of life in the body, and then the body is there dead. Now that is not Tom, right? There's incompletion there, and it waits for the day of resurrection. Now there is an old heresy out there again about body, soul, and spirit as a really, really dogmatic, trifold, I don't know. Shoehorned square peg round hole dogma, and that's not what I'm saying. And if you heard a glimmer of that in there, I recant of that thing and where it goes. I don't believe that at all. But I do think that the nephesh, as Hebrew teaches it, is your whole person, physical and not physical. And then I do think that the spirit of life that God puts into you biblically in Genesis is also a different thing than the soul, which is your created spiritual existence as a physical being. The nephesh is just the human is just an amazing thing, that we're both spiritual and creaturely. Animals have spirits, but probably not souls, right? We can debate that, but I think there's a lot of wisdom there, as that then also just tries to explain Tom is to be all of what you are, and that the Christian sees that in our religion, our body is part of what we are, and what I do with my body then is part of my religion. It doesn't mean that if I don't do enough stuff with my body, then that I won't, you know, be saved. I mean, that puts it all into this like keeping track game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the point is like, if my religion does not impact my body at all, then it's not my religion. If I don't get moved by my spirit to do anything, then I'm not really having that spirit. I can like cheer for something without really being a part of it. Religion in Christianity's sense is not like being a sports fan. It's not like that. Religion in Christianity's sense is to be on the team, right? It's a kingdom. It's not a franchise with some players that we all watch, and like, you know, we pay these guys from all over the world to come to our city and then beat other cities, and now, you know, we have identity. The church is the kingdom of Jesus Christ entering the world as us, and the word that he has spoken, which is real and living and true and active, enters you to make you then move. At the very least, you're going to get up on Sunday morning and go to church, right? So you got to do something with your body. This isn't to say that it's by works that you're saved. I mean, that's just, again, to fall into that debate is to let something that really, like, some people need to work through that one and to find grace. I'm not lying about that, but for daily living, we got to believe that grace is sufficient, and then walk according to the way that has been set before us. And none of that's just in your head. None of it's just in your head. That's Gnosticism, is just in your head. If your religion's just in your head, you're a Gnostic. That is the one and only opposite religion of Christianity. In the history of the world, they all flow back to it's in your head. You're telling yourself a story. As opposed to what's happening externally to you, which is the story God is telling. Wolf Mueller tweeted that this morning. That was fun. Yeah. Wrestling with terminology. And he did what I am almost doing sometimes, just like tweeting a picture of a note card. I guess I do it too. I just always want to like back up and show you the green grass behind it. But I'm always afraid my handwriting won't be able to be read. But then I looked at his and I was like, oh, I can read his. And his is good, but mine's it's fair. So it's a cool idea.
Good.
Throw it out there. Yeah.
So Tom, having integrity of heart, wellness of mind, enlivened by the Spirit.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
All of what you are.
Is to be a whole person. Or a whole thing. It doesn't have to just be about people. A thing is tome when it is complete. It is whole. An apple off the tree is tome, right? Once you take a bite, it's not tome anymore. Although, if you eat the whole thing, that would be a tome experience, right? So it's just a cool word. Maybe it should come into English. I don't know. I'm not really on the agenda of getting all the Hebrews into English, but sometimes it's hard to find another one. Integrity works really good, though. Integrity covers it. Tome is integrity.
So in the Old Testament, when we translate it, integrity, do we have that word in the Old Testament?
Yeah.
We do.
No, and I think that's very good. I think King James is spot on when they get it
So-
that way. But sometimes it goes as perfect, and then it's like, oh, that turned into a pitfall over time. Right?
So they're translating the word tom into perfect or
Integrity. Usually.
Okay.
Yeah. In Psalms, if you see either of those words, it's probably tome.
Cool.
Not always. I mean, there's weird exceptions, but it's like everything in Hebrew is like it's 100%, 80% of the time, always. So even like the Hallam on my tome, right?
I forgot that.
Yeah, you got the tau with the dagish that makes the hard, and you got the Hallam, the little dot in the sky, and you got the final meme, which looks like a sada. No, it's not sada.
Are we talking about
I want to say
Greek
sigma.
now?
I want to say sigma, but it's not sigma. It's the S. Anyway, there's like 3 S's. I just want to talk about Hallam Vav. So then you have that Hallam, which is that little dot flying in the sky. You can also see this word with a Vav or a wow, depending on how you pronounce it. That's a straight line coming down from that dot. Like.
So there are multiple ways that you could see it.
Yeah,
Is that what you're trying to say?
It shows up like this, too.
Oh, okay.
That's the fun of Hebrew.
So if one were to say embroider this on a tea towel,
so
which way would you put it?
I am planning. One moment.
Yeah, I just thought we have some different words that you've been pulling out of Proverbs and out of Hebrew that I've been thinking about possibly putting different things on tea towels or dish towels for Hebron, and then potentially they could go into a store that's on Etsy.
Yeah. Right.
And so if this
Yeah.
one would seem like
So
a really good one.
That now I put that piece of paper down. That tome, the first one, that was nice and clean with the little tiny dot. I don't know, you can't see it on screen very well, but the top one there.
Yeah.
I intend to calligraphy that onto these wood pieces. I just have 2 of them to try. And if you can, for your sake, just imagine that tau meme with dot, right? It's just going to sit right in there in all black. And so, yeah, I think that would look great also on your thing. That's exactly what I'm preparing that for.
Nice.
And while we have the screen, Heart of Wisdom number 2 is finished with the Psalm 90 reference there in the corner. This is now available on the Studio 3120
Oh yeah, it's
Fuller
3124. Yes.
Etsy shop. It is
Do you
available
ha-
there.
Is it signed by the artist?
It will be signed before it's mailed. I
Nice.
keep tinkering with my signature, so I don't want to put it on too many things until I know what I'm really doing. But like I have my normal signature, but I'm doing my artistic signature. I'm not quite Prince. I don't have a symbol for my name. I've got like 9. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 symbols for my name. So what do? I make them a circle? How do I do it? So I've tried doing it like an upside down pyramid. I don't like that, but that's the most natural way. My name flows 4, 3, 1 as symbols. So, yeah. So trying to figure that out.
With a little...
I should put the fish in the middle, and I should put the 4 around it, and then the 3 is a triangle above that. That's what I should do. That'll look good.
Yes. If it were an upside down triangle and you put the ichthys at the bottom, then it would be like a chalice.
That's sort of what it is. If I mean, I'd make a bigger ichthys, you're saying. Yeah. Anyway, fun with Hebrew. Yeah. Try it at home. Really, really. Should we get to some questions? Or you got another topic to bring up? Okay. Yeah, we got your questions. Bible answers some of our nonsense here on Stop the White Noise. And if you do want to have your questions on the show, you can send them through the contact page at madpxm.com. That's short for Mad Christianity, Mad Christian Mondays. Every week, get in your inbox a little bit from me, along with a summary of the last week from a Christian perspective at Mad Christian Mondays, madpxm.com, and hoping to move into some more content here shortly as well. Thank you for those of you who did apply or are applying for the position. Believe it or not, we have more than one position for team members. So if you just have always wanted to be a team member of the Mad Christian team, more than just on Discord, but you're on Discord, that's great. More than just, kind of you got the Sons of Solomon stuff on your own, but no, you'd like to get involved in packaging the meat behind the scenes a little bit. We're at that point where I'm thinking about how to expand our team, how to bring on more help for others, for myself, and whatnot. So if you're really interested in 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a week, where are you at, of volunteer time for the Mad Christian program, Dark Shore as an organization, the Hebrew Collegium, Brief History of Power. It's all one big web, and we'd love to have a few more hands behind the scenes. So you can reach out at madpxm.com for that reason as well. Thanks to those of you who have, and we'll be continuing that conversation with you as we go forward. So you're going to throw a hat tip out here to Easy World. It says, I've been doing carnivore for 5 weeks. I'm down 24 pounds as of this morning. Isn't that crazy? Your first 2 months are crazy. If you just do it, you're like, watch it. Watch it falls away and there's muscle underneath. What's going on? I'm eating meat. That's what I'm doing. Eating meat. It just is an incredible thing. God bless you for that. Taking the risk there. All right, here we go. Caleb says, on a recent Stop the White Noise, you mentioned an understanding of Jacob wrestling with God as God overcoming Jacob. Yes. Of course, I love anything that focuses us more on God and his work instead of our effort, but I wonder how your understanding squares with Hosea 12, where it says Jacob overcame God. Thank you, Caleb. That's a good question. Okay, so to review from a couple weeks back, I was asked to go over again my read on Jacob's fight with God, the angel of Jesus, at the Jabbok River on his way back to meet Esau the night beforehand. We all can agree Jacob comes up limping the next day. God struck his hip or pulled his side or did something to scar him so that when Esau sees him with his 400 men, there is mercy in Esau's eyes upon his broken brother. And Esau is then like, God the Father receiving Jesus Christ back from his work that he's done for us, being broken for our iniquities and all this. So in when this happens, is Jacob being the prototypical Homer hero where he's out in front fighting God even, or is he more of a coward hiding on the other side of the river from his brother's army? That's where the debate comes in, and it has to do with how you choose your pronouns. Go there.
So that's where it starts. Is whether or not he's hiding, or if he's being valiant.
That's the place where you're just going to have to decide which one. It's not really where it starts. Where it starts is where God did this, and Jacob did this, and he 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 did this, and then Jacob did this. Okay, so who's the he's? And the standard translation goes alpha, beta, alpha, beta, alpha, beta, alpha, beta, all the way through. I think there's an alpha, beta, alpha, beta, alpha, beta, beta. alpha, beta, and that gives you a storyline that jives entirely with everything and the gospel. It call me crazy again, but when people preach that what you really gotta do is wrestle with God at night in prayer and wait for an answer, like, I just don't have it anymore. I just want to scream. Like, no, the answer came on the cross. It is finished, right? You're baptized. I don't disagree. Wrestle with God in prayer. How do you do that? Pray the Psalter, sonsofsolomon.net. Check it out. But that's not where you're going to find new revelations of whether or not God loves you. You're going to do it because God loves you in Jesus Christ and has inspired you to hear those prayers in his name is fulfilled for you. So you're his son. You're his brother. You're in his family and in his kingdom, right? So it just changes everything about the way you go about the prayers. God, sorry, I get zealous about some of these things. So the gospel being at the center of the story matters to me when I talk about Genesis 32, Jacob at the Jabbok ford. But what is it? Is it Hosea chapter 12? Which I ran into this many years after doing the paper. My professor had never brought it up, and so I didn't know. And someone showed it to me a couple years ago, and I remember being, oh no, well I guess I'll have to recant. But I went and looked at it again, and then I did it again today, and it's like, oh yeah, no, really. It's kind of how you read it. It's kind of how you read it. Okay, so I think we're going to all be in agreement by and large with what Hosea says, right? Which here it is in chapter 12, verse. Oh, I got the verse numbers covered on my screen. Verse 2, it'll lead into it, where it says, Jesus Christ also brings a charge against Judah and will punish Jacob according to his ways, according to his deeds, he will recompense him. Okay, so that's all Jesus, God, punishing Jacob. There's a statement about punishment here, okay? He took his brother by the heel in the womb. Okay, that's his name, heel grabber Jacob. And in his strength, he struggled with God. Okay, no problem here. There's definitely a fighting match beside the river. Yes, he struggled with the angel and, now there's the word, prevailed. It goes on, though. He wept and sought favor from him. He found him in Bethel. That is, Jacob found God in Bethel, and there he spoke to us. That is, God spoke. Who? Jesus Christ, God of hosts. Jesus Christ, his memorable name. Oh, unless you don't like to say his name and say the Lord instead, then it's not his memorable name. Then it's the Lord, his memorable name. I prefer Jesus Christ, his memorable name. It kind of makes sense. So let's go back to then. Yes, he struggled with the angel and prevailed. Great. I actually don't have a problem with that. Like, when I, as an infant, was brought to the waters of holy baptism with all my carnal flesh and the inherited sin of my father, I struggled against God every step of that way, and I prevailed that day as I died in the water and rose again. Because God made me prevail by striking me dead and raising me from the dead. So he didn't not prevail just because he got struck and just because he couldn't escape until he did the thing. He wept and sought favor from him. That's exactly it. How did he prevail? He prayed. He actually prayed. He stopped fighting. Stop trying to do it himself and said, tell me your name. Fine, you're my God. Tell me your name. Tell me how I can call on you. Tell me I can trust you. I've been able to trust you this far in my life. Tell me the name to call on you so I can trust you. You'll always answer me and my faith will be sustained. Give me that. Israel is your name, he says. Why do you ask my name? I'm going to name you. You're Israel. I'm for you. Stop questioning. Amen. Hallelujah. It's gospel all the way. Yay. Did I answer it? I think I did. Yeah. I would understand that, yes, he struggled with the angel prevailed is meant to be exegetically understood through the next statement. He wept. How did he prevail over the angel of God? He cried. He asked for mercy. That's how he prevailed. He didn't prevail by, what was his strength? Weakness. Jesus says this. Paul says this, right? I'm just jiving it with the whole deal, putting it together as one thing. So I hope that helps. And again, my zeal. It's what you like. I shouldn't be sorry for my zeal. That's why it's good TV. So, I got my wife stirred. She's writing down stuff. I'm gonna go to the principal's office later.
So the concept of prevailed. What are we talking about when we say prevailed?
I would really need to look at some Hebrew here. So, if you give me a second, I'll be happy to try to find out. So I didn't do that this morning. Let's look at this in Hebrew.
I mean, just from an English perspective, we think survive,
overcome,
or was victorious.
Prevail. Yeah, I don't know. Overcome. Survive. on a certain level, but survive well. It's not like barely survive.
Because, I mean, to struggle with an angel and then to survive.
It's a deal.
That's...
Yeah, prevailing. He kept his faith. He was given faith. He lives through it in faith. I don't want to read an entire religion of justification by works into one word in an Old Testament story. I would rather see that word must be understood through the good news of the kingdom of Jesus Christ, and not conversely. So let's see here. I'm trying to find prevailed, and this is in verse 4, in the middle of the verse, right? And let's see here. Power wealth. Okay, it's like a noun. He strived, contended, power wealthily against God. That's the end of it. No, it's not. Interesting. So then it changes.
In his strength, he struggled with God.
I see here.
And then you have to go to the second part.
Yes. Okay, we're a verse behind.
Angel.
Yeah, he struggled with the angel. We're a verse behind. Hebrew does this sometimes. And he favor to him. So he struggled with the angel and yakal. That's what we want. Endure.
Yeah.
First meaning, endure.
So it doesn't mean he conquered God.
First meaning. You know how that works in a dictionary, right? You got like 5 meanings. You know what the first one is? The common one. You know how hard you have to change the word in Hebrew? Oh my goodness.
Okay, so the first meaning is what again?
Sorry, the way that it had, I just changed the screen to go dig deeper. So forgive me, I got to go back. Endure. No, it was endure. To be able to. He struggled with God and was able to. Endure. I'm going to go deeper here because I'm moving from one resource to the next. Mostly translated by the Greek dunamai, I can. In a weak sense of be strong, but it doesn't really mean strength. It's like a metaphorical sense of be strong.
So his man strength, which is nothing compared to God's strength.
Basic meaning is to be able, primarily used of man. With a negative, to be not able, can refer to a lack of self-control. It gets more complicated then. Ability. And it gets into like prohibitions. That's different though. It is correctly translated as prevail when used of men in wrestling or battle. Prominent example. So, but see, when you're prominent,
but it doesn't mean they win.
The prominent example doesn't. The problem is to use it as the prominent example. It can't be the proof in my argument or the proof against my argument because it's the thing my argument's about, right? Mm-hmm. So the example is Jacob at the Jabbok. Here we go. 1 Samuel 17:9. Goliath puts alternatively before Saul's army. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will become your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall become servants of us. Now, if it's that word prevail, they had it as if he is able to fight with me and kill me. But if I am able against him, that's the way the Hebrew would have said it. So it really would be the word fight. If I'm able to fight against him and kill him. So it doesn't necessarily mean prevail. Okay?
It doesn't mean win.
It means able. Right. It doesn't mean win or victory per se.
It just means go up
but
against.
It can be in a context where that's the case. Used of the gods. Sennacherib sardonically gloats over the inability of various gods. Right. So it's a pretty powerful word. But I'm gonna say here again that it doesn't turn into at the wrestling match, God saw that Jacob was too tough for God, which is what you have to read the one line is saying. And I'm just like, I guess God could veil himself, so that is how he did it. And Jesus, in his pre-incarnate sonship, just wasn't tough enough for that 80-year-old man. He'd been a herder a long time, so he was wiry. Sheep jiu-jitsu. I just don't buy it. It just makes so much more sense that like Jacob's trying to get away, and God's like jiu-jitsu master, always making it hard on Jacob, never actually crushing him, waiting for Jacob to stop fighting. Just waiting for Jacob to stop fighting. And Jacob won't stop fighting. So finally, God's like, I punch you now. Pow! Oh, who are you? Right? Now there's a conversation about who is who that comes after that. But it takes God breaking Jacob for Jacob to see. And I think that's a pretty resounding Christian message. And so, again, we can fight on the details of the grammar, but I don't think the Hosea text is unequivocally an end to my hypothesis. So there you go.
Yeah, that's really insightful. It's important to define our terms and figure out what the first definition is, it would seem, right?
It's always important to define our terms. That is the truth. That is the truth. All right, so here we go. Guy in Depew says, I was listening to your teaching from the recent men's gathering. That's at mensgathering.us if you want more. All 3 recordings were amazing, and I greatly appreciate your teaching and the men who made it available for me to listen to. In one of the recordings, you said there were only a handful of places you can't use Jesus Christ for Lord in the Old Testament is the idea. What are those places? Thanks for all you do. I do not have a memorized list of all those places. I know others have pointed them out. When I come to them, I just don't worry about it too much and kind of go past or figure out how to pray it. The way I'm going to show you now is Psalm 110. We'll use that as our example because it's a pretty clear place where it's like it's a little chunky just to go Jesus Christ there for Yahweh. And I think you'll see why. You're looking at the screen, you see it already. I'm turning in my Bible to it so I can do it off the page here. So it's mainly the first line that matters here. Psalm 110 says, in English, no adjustment from me, New King James, the Lord, all capitals of Lord, said to my Lord, not all capitals of Lord, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool. Now, this text is very clearly quoted by Peter in his Pentecost sermon as being about Jesus and as meaning that God the Father said to Jesus, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool. Because Jesus is the Christ who is the Lord that is the King. And so God the Father has appointed him as the heir of David to, again, reign forever and sit at God's right hand. So if you were to read this as, the way I often read the Bible, Jesus Christ said to my Lord, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool. Now, it would be very confusing. You wouldn't think Jesus Christ said to Jesus Christ, sit at my right hand, right? That would be odd. The value of having a Trinitarian God is that different persons who are God can talk to each other. It makes sense when you have a Trinity. It doesn't make a lot of sense if you don't have an incarnate God in the Trinity as the Christ. It kind of gets weird. It's only about a human king at that point. So it would be strange to have this read Jesus Christ, and it would make more sense to say the Holy Spirit said to my Lord, sit at my right hand. But even there, it seems like the Father really is the clear implication of this use of Yahweh. But this is where Trinitarian theology is very important. Like, you never divide them. They are not each other, but we don't divide them. So if Jesus is there and says something, you don't be like, well, what's your Father think? Right? It doesn't, no, you understand. When Jesus talks, the Father sent him. And when the Spirit speaks, Jesus and the Father sent him. So like they're not independent operators, right? They're Trinitarian operators. Operator sounds a bit coarse actually to describe them, but so this would just be an example of a place where I would suggest that the average lay reader, you get to this point, it's like, Jesus Christ said to my Lord. Right? Doesn't make any sense. Well, yeah. So be aware that there's a place where it doesn't quite fit. Although now, the beautiful thing about the Psalms is Christianity, is the whole religion, is that like you're the body of Jesus Christ now. Like, think about it for a second. Like, that's not a metaphor. So the kingdom of Jesus Christ, which is his body, risen from the dead already, anointed you as part of it with the water of baptism. You're anointed as part of the kingdom now. So you are one with Jesus Christ. He has a person and a personhood that doesn't need you. It's not as though you're fused, except that you kind of are, but without destroying the person. It's this whole problem we have when trying to describe the Trinity, in fact, is now being given to us as an extension of the body of Christ, as the mystery of the sons of God being revealed before time through faith alone. It's amazing stuff. So when Jesus Christ says to my Lord, David says, right? David can be talking about himself. Okay. David can be talking about you. It is true as a promise that Jesus Christ has said to you, sit at his right hand until he makes your enemies his footstool. It is an absolutely true fact. And it comes to you here by seeing that first this was said to Jesus, he fulfilled it. Now you've been baptized into it. It's your prayer too. Jesus Christ does sit in heaven and say to you every day, sit at my right hand. Reign in the midst of your enemies. He says that to the whole church. The whole church, not just you specifically. The whole church, all of us, every single Christian. We are the kingdom. Again, it's so potent, right? But I still personally would probably not say Jesus Christ at this point in my prayers. But there are definitely places in the Bible where it says things that are spoken to Jesus with a you, psalmic, and I apply that to me. Behold, here I am today, as written of me in the book. It's written of me in the book. It says it right there, and I'm reading it. It's written of me in the book. It's fulfilled. There it is. But it's about Jesus, yes. The only reason I know it's about me is because it's about Jesus, and he gave it to me to believe it's also about me. These are my prayers. That are his prayers to pray right here, right now. And Jesus is not here right now to pray out loud for creation, except in me and you. And there he is among us, right? So it's beautiful. Like this is paradise already. Mm. Even with the thorns. What's paradise gonna be like? Get the thorns out of here. Wow. So that's my one answer I've got off the top of my head of places where you have this kind of, I don't know, squiggly moment for confessing Jesus as Lord in the text as you read it out loud. But I hardly think those squiggly moments, remember 80% Hebrews all the time, right? I hardly think the squiggly moments in any way inhibit the use of Jesus Christ as your standard way of referring to the name of God in the Old Testament, since that is the revelation that we've been given. Yeah. And the confession of the New Testament, very plainly, Jesus Christ is Lord. They told us. And they had the Greek Old Testament. It said Lord all the way through it. So they knew. Right?
What psalm was that again?
That was Psalm 110. The great Melchizedekan mystery psalm. That thing is it's super important. It's right at the center. And there are much easier things to study in Scripture. It's just full of mystery. I don't think it's the one that ends with him like drinking milk in the brook by the way, or his teeth are white. Is it that one too?
I'm looking.
Yes, he shall drink by the brook by the wayside. Therefore, he shall lift up his head. Yes, of course. Why not? Obviously, that would be what would happen. So it's just I love it because it's like this is one where, to some extent, the Melchizedekan, right, the order of the righteous king. The covenant that was of old, that is the New Testament covenant before the Old Covenant Sinai, is wrapped up in this piece, and like maybe we'll unpack the nut before the last day, but something tells me that the last day, like this thing's just like like it all makes sense, yeah, 110.
I'm wondering if so. It's a Psalm of David.
Indeed.
And David had Saul as his Lord.
Yep, it could go that way too.
So I was curious. So yeah, it could potentially be that he's singing about Christ anointing Saul.
Yeah, but you are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek.
Yeah, that's
right.
And different.
And so this is a swearing. So and it's one of those places where it's like, David is almost can't even be talking about himself first,
no,
right?
I don't think
like
so.
He's seeing the promise to his son, right? And Jesus gets at this when Jesus quotes this as this is the psalm he uses to shut everybody up at the week in the temple. Like when everyone's trying to challenge him,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, so if David says to my
Yeah.
Lord, you know, whose son is he after all? And everyone's like,
Right.
I don't know. You got us, dude. So, David, knowing the promises given to Solomon, can call Solomon his Lord. The Lord, Jesus, said to my Lord, Solomon, sit at my right hand. And that is, again, a prototype, a historical fulfillment leading to the great historical fulfillment of Christ. David could also just have been seeing Christ.
I guess, right. I guess I was just curious about, the days when David was singing to Saul and playing for him. Like, how many of the Psalms would he have written then?
Yeah, I think there are quite a number of them.
And, did they believe that Saul was, he was their king, so he was anointed and they respected him, but would they have ascribed that much power to him as being in the order?
No, this is just it. No,
of Melchizedek?
No, even David's not in the order of Melchizedek. Nobody's in the order of Melchizedek except Melchizedek. That's the whole point of the Hebrews. Like, this guy he just vanishes, and then Jesus is in that order because Psalm 110. And then what is it the order of? I mean, what is Melchizedek? It is the order of the righteous king, right? It is the priesthood of the righteous king. And again, we are the kingdom,
Right.
right? So,
yeah, and I see all of that. I just was curious in his.
I see your question about Saul, and I don't think it does not jive with the spirit of Scripture to ascribe these promises to Saul.
So it would have been more likely he wrote it in his older age, like you said about his son.
About Solomon or about Christ. Yeah.
Knowing that Solomon was given those promises before David died.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he knows that this Lord's going to come from his loins.
I see.
He knows that. When? I mean, how soon does that promise come to him? I will build you a house.
Right.
It's
He does
with the
know.
temple thing, right?
Yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I was just curious if he would have known in this the penning of this psalm, if he would have known, or it's
no,
kind
and
of hard to
it's
tell.
so late in the Psalter too. So even as a Psalm of David, it floated to the back, and it's just weird. So it wasn't really in the early stuff for some reason. I don't know.
Okay.
But Jesus quotes it. Peter quotes it. I'm pretty sure Paul quotes it. I mean, it's just a huge piece of Christian theology, really. Reverend and Meridith, my husband and I were recently discussing the pros and cons of extracurricular activities for school-aged kids. A little background, I was homeschooled, had a relatively few extracurriculars, just enough to round out my education with art and PE, music, often at the same class with my sister. I thoroughly enjoyed spending time with my family and eating home-cooked dinner almost every night. My husband grew up in a small town public school setting where one's success seemed to be largely determined by cramming as many extracurriculars as possible into your schedule. Busy meant successful, and by high school, it wasn't uncommon for him to spend all waking hours and most Saturdays at school for sports, drama, speech, and debate, science club, marching, jazz, and pep bands, probably a couple more that I'm forgetting. Despite differing opinions from our in-laws, we thankfully agree that with the increasing rate of decline in the public school system, our option is homeschool. How do you strike a balance between weird homeschool hermit children? I'm all on that, man. And busy every night of the week and most weekends, normie children. Thanks for all you do. Blessings to the Fisk families. You strive to walk the walk and talk. You just talk.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. Cramming excitement into life as success by worshiping busyness. And weird homeschool children. Weird homeschool hermit children. That's just a great line.
Write that
it's so true though. It's so, but like this is like, and Frisbee had this whole thing like, is that even true? Like still, like aren't homeschoolers like more normal now? And but it's kind of like, don't really be weird.
Weird. What was it?
As long as it's functional. Weird homeschool hermit children are like.
I want to have. I want to make a tea towel out of that too. Beware of
weird homeschool hermit children.
Children.
Doing life is the fullness of space, time. Doing life is a phrase Frisbee also did not like, that she threw out there and then said there's reasons not to like the phrase doing life. I guess there's somebody who says it in a bad way. But I thought it was interesting, doing life as the fullness of space, time today, as opposed to cramming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cramming excitement as the worship of busy without realizing it, right? You're worshiping busy. What does that mean? It means you're hiding, actually. You're fleeing from things. You're trying to escape. Or you're trying to build something that is unbuildable. So you're hastily attempting to do more than is given to you to do. A proverb that has been very potent to me, though I cannot quote you its location. You'll have to go use the artificial intelligence to find it. But it is something along the lines of, he who hastens with his feet sins. And it's like, well, that's a bit harsh, isn't that? That's a bit harsh. Just because I ran? What if it's a race? Can I hasten during the sprint or not? Well, okay. Wisdom is meant to give you insight, not so much to be, a rule you write in stone and kill people if they don't do it. But the idea here is that anytime you find yourself in a hurry, you're probably overreaching, and you have a greater chance of making a pretty big mistake. Which the word sin, before it means anything else, kind of just means mistake, to miss. And so to let my own agenda for life just be this, that I am going to not be in a hurry. And I'm not good at this. I'm in a hurry all the time. But I am going to not be in a hurry. If I have any chance to voice my opinion in the matter with myself, I will say, I don't need to hurry. And so if the day is going to require hurry, then I'm going to cut something from the day, or I'm going to try to make it so that this doesn't have to be the way the day is all the time. Because I am not going to be in a hurry. I lived enough life in a hurry, and it didn't bring spiritual benefit to me, really, at all. It was quite destructive. I know Meridith will have some to throw in here too. I could probably go on, but
are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
I have a little story. So we were blessed with the care and nurture of a dog for a year. And in that time period, he took up a lot of our time and energy and focus. And we still loved on and cared for Sweet Rabbit, but not nearly as much as we had in the 2 years prior to the dog coming to our home. In the course of the time when the dog came into our home and was here, Sweet Rabbit developed a little tumor on his shoulder. And the tumor was a pea size for a while, and so whatever, I thought for a long time it was just a swollen gland, but now the dog is gone and the tumor is much bigger.
We tried using carnivore to fix the tumor, but unfortunately the rabbit would have none of it.
He's not into pork rinds. I don't know. I don't get it. I
poked myself with something really sharp.
Oh.
I'm going to stand up and moon the camera. Keep going, Meridith.
So we realized a few days ago,
whatever that was,
as we've dealt with different things. What is it?
Well, it's blood is what that is.
But what is it?
I don't know. It's like this little tiny piece of something sharp. Is it glass? Check it out. Can you see the blood? Bleeding.
Because you pulled it out of your chair.
No, I don't know. It was like on my lap, and I pinched it, and then it's like, and there's that little black thing right there.
Oh my goodness!
It's like a piece of glass, but it's like blue.
Did you break something?
Part of my cup break off? You keep going with your story. I'll be fine, but it's kind of shocking. Right?
Yeah, it's almost like you broke something in this area
long ago,
and then it's just or chipped something. But anyhow, so we've realized that Sweet Rabbit only gets at most 8 years you get with your bunnies if they're super healthy and you're willing to pay for them to be healthy. And as this tumor has gotten bigger, we have realized that Sweet Rabbit's not going to be around forever. And we basically missed a whole year of having him. You know,
yeah,
because not that
a lot of dog.
Sorta. He was here. We loved him, and he was in his room. He wasn't. We were holding him, but we really did. Like,
It wasn't like he was the dominant
wasn't the
presence.
same.
Yeah, right.
Year as the
Right.
2 years prior.
Right.
And now, this coming year, as we try to love on him, the kids were like, "We don't get that year back."
Mm-hmm.
This is the point of my story. You don't get these years back with your kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
We saw Sweet Rabbit. We stroked his little head, you know, but it wasn't the same. There wasn't the quiet taking time to breathe with Sweet Rabbit.
Right.
So as you run around from game to game or activity to activity, it's not that you're not with your children, but you're not really present.
It's hard to be when you're trying to be somewhere else. That's the problem. If you're getting ready to be somewhere else, you can't be where you are.
Every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else.
Yeah,
and
right.
Oftentimes it's our family.
Right.
And these are the years when you will create a relationship that will be a foundation for the years to come. All the years of adulthood. Like, they only have 18 years of childhood. They have the rest of their life as adults.
Mm-hmm.
So you only get a very small portion of their life to create a foundation upon which to build for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. If you still do the internet, do a search for wait but why. That's the blog. And then it should still be, there's a post called The Tail End. Wait but why the tail end. And it'll show you in pictographs the amount of time you have with your family in your life by comparison to other things you'll do in your life. And talk about how it's front loaded. So first 18 years, lots of time with family. After that, not lots of time with family. So, and then, end loaded. You're going to have a lot of life without your parents. Actually, too. Like, not all. So to know that comes, and then it's a limited quantity kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say about weird homeschool hermit children.
Yeah. But maintaining the tension then. So if you're going to do extracurricular, that's sort of the question, right? And, I don't know if we're the best example, because I like to stretch us a lot with what we do. And this last year definitely was, well, we get one shot at this thing, we're going to throw everything at it and try and not hold back at all. And we put ourselves through a schedule that it would be unsustainable every day forever.
I think it's weird when an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old is saying, wow, it's Sunday again? Where'd the week go? Like, that's what 70-years are supposed to say.
I don't know.
Or
They're
at least
doing less.
40-year-olds.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there was something every day.
Mm-hmm.
There was something all the time. And when I tried to get us to have things not every day, and we'd create stuff. So it's part of it's the community, just being a community and being glad to have community. People are hungry for people, and when you have it, it's hard to let it go.
Well, it's even if you are doing jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just use our family for as an example. Doing jujitsu is not the calm, relaxing community building that humans crave, and so we still crave that quiet, sit with my friend and draw, or the let's fellowship or
it's the
be
fellowship
in
part,
conversation over food together with people outside of our home, so that we can kind of, honestly, I think we gauge ourselves with other people in conversation. We're like, okay, so these are our thoughts. I want to get together with other like-minded people and just kind of see where we stand.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's epistemology at work. You're trying to figure out where you stand. That's exactly right.
So,
and you do it by herd. The herd sends the cue that things are up or things are down. And by checking with multiple, you find out, because someone can be insane, and they say it's up, and everyone's like, nah, it's down. And so you balance yourself, or you prop yourself up against other stories.
I mean, I do think, as much as I don't love the secular, I should say the view into secular world that the kids get from our jiu-jitsu experience in the community, not Hebron area, but like in
the
Rockford.
academy we go to. Yeah.
I think it's really valuable because we do talk to them about, okay, so this is the danger of using devices. This is the danger of being on the internet.
By going to that place where they are twice a week in effectively the school gym, but it's not the school gym. It's just run to do this one thing, right? There's a volleyball version on the other side of the wall going on. So you're going into full-on public but private. So what do you call that? Club sports.
Essentially.
Full-on club sports. And you're in, so these kids are going into a locker room, and they're in an hour and a half or 2 hours twice a week getting everything that you would get at high school, but just for those 2 hours. And then they come home, and they're like, that was weird. And it's kind of like, yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to like, that's normal. Right, for them. Now, so they're getting a real taste of the world, but it's enough to just bother them, in fact.
So I guess what I'm saying is, as homeschoolers, I do think it is valuable. I've seen the value in getting our kids, because we've done this all along in different ways. We did do volleyball. We did do, we haven't homeschooled fully from our oldest kindergarten to senior year, so they've always had a little bit of secular poke at them. So if that means that you as a family choose to do jujitsu, if that means you as a family choose to do karate or running, like I know there are running groups in towns, whatever it is that you decide to do it as a family. That's my first bit of advice. And then have it be in a secular realm, so that you're getting a little bit of a taste of what the world is thinking around your home bubble, so that you can, it'll enliven your conversations.
You get to know your community, or at least a part of your community, as a culture pretty well if you didn't before. I mean, it's very clear what Rockford is.
Yeah.
We kind of knew that already. But what I've been amazed with, though, is
the kids really didn't.
Right, they didn't. You're right. They can't see it the way we do.
And even going to the private school sports, it was only one vein of it.
No, I think the whole growth they've gotten from club jiu-jitsu far exceeds the private school sports participation. In terms of its value. But part of a lot of that is that we could do it again as a family, or try to get as many people in the same classes as possible.
Yeah,
it becomes part of our group identity. It's something that we can do the rest of our lives. We're not going to grow out of it. So there's a lot of reasons we went into it that way. But this is, so I wasn't just referring to that, though. When I said like this last year, with what we're doing with Hebron too, we are starting an entrepreneurial business.
We are.
And that is a schedule that is, if you believe any of the secular stories about how to start a business, it's insane. You will have to give your entire life to this idea for the better part of a decade. And so knowing all of that and asking my family to come along for the ride, we did that last year, and it put a lot of pressure on us. There's a lot of pressure on us. And this next year, we've learned enough now to try to keep cranking the gears on the things that are going to keep growing, and we're going to take our hand off the wheel or off the gas on certain things. Not that they're done forever, but they're going to like back burner while we deal with, what we know we can grow. And I expect us to be very busy this year too, but I think it's going to be a little less. I still think we'll have, wow, it's Sunday already, but it's going to be like, oh, but tomorrow's this. And so there's, as opposed to trying to keep up with the calendar, I hope that this next season is just walking every day
Mm-hmm.
with somewhere to go, but you're not having to run to keep up. And for me, it was running to keep up last year. I know for you it was.
Yeah.
And so we're not always great at it. But what we did do is a couple of things. I noticed it and began to set, kind of turn the Titanic goals. I mean, it's not easy to change the calendar pace. It takes time. And that maybe even started with just Friday nights not having something in the winter. Okay, we got to create space somehow. And I realized how hard that was. We couldn't even create that space. So we've had to just make it more of a conversation about how we walk.
And Friday night, like for us, that was a fun.
It was.
It was a fun. It is. I mean, it still exists. It's
Mm-hmm.
just not on Friday anymore.
Yeah.
But it's a fun community building. It's not a party, but it's that.
It is, though.
Has that
festival.
kind of festive feel. And so there's a relaxation in it, but it is also another thing to do. But it does take away from our time around our dinner table. And so we had to intentionally carve out, like, okay, well, if we're going to, you recently came to me and said, I want to have 10 hours of family time, for example, in a week. And so how can we create that 10 hours or mindfully sacrifice little bits of it to very worthwhile things? If somebody comes to the group and says, hey, there's this concert or this event, or
last night we were trying to have the night be a calmer night, but we still did something for Hebron because it was the right thing to do. It was a good thing to do.
Yeah, we had a sending prayer and Godspeed.
So
evening.
The question again is about how do we maintain the balance and between busy and not with homeschool, and then like do some but not too much. And I want to emphasize I don't like the word balance. I prefer the word tension. To have something imbalanced, there must be a proper tension between the two things, right? So if you have a scale, your balance is this part, but the tension is the rod. You need it to be firm and able to handle the pull and the push of both sides. And you also see this in things like weight training, where simple up-down motions aren't really that great for you, but extended time in tension with the weight is much quicker to build you. So what we're after as a family isn't work-life balance. What we want is to remember the tension of the present, actually. And a big part of that for me is thinking about time less and space more, and then having zeal for the space that I'm in and seeking to reign over that space with the Word of God and a heart of integrity as much as I'm given to do, especially if it's my space. But if there's no one else reigning, like, I'm going to, because someone needs to, So taking that approach then to time and to having my own level of first year entrepreneurial repentance. Okay, we can't do this forever. We got to shift it here a little bit, but also just each one of those shifts being like, well, it's kind of obvious that that's the next thing we're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So I'll walk that way. Then I'll stop trying so hard. And that's always really pleasurable. I think making homeschool children not hermits does mean they have to engage other human beings than just you.
Yeah.
That's mainly what it is.
But it doesn't have to be kids their own age.
No, other adults is great.
For the longest time, we took our kids to Bible study at church during the week, and that was it. That was what they were tiny.
Yeah.
They quote unquote, shouldn't have been there because they were too little. But they did. They went and they learned how to speak because they were just hearing conversation around them, and it was godly conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm not displeased with the outcome of that experiment at all.
That's good. That's good.
And then it developed this routine of going to Bible study or being at church when church is offered.
Right.
As opposed to just, no, we did our hour this week. We're done.
Well, church is your space. No.
Yeah.
Right. You made church your space. That's pretty cool.
So
do that, all y'all. Make your church your space. Doesn't mean be a jerk, but it's your space. You belong there.
ownership of the space is huge. Not that,
At least
like
as
you said, not that you're a jerk, but you're a steward. Is the counter in the bathroom messy? Well, wipe it up.
That's right.
Leave it clean for somebody else. You know,
is the
this
sanctuary
is your
empty?
church.
Is the sanctuary empty? Go pray.
Fill it.
Go pray.
So, so I think that's huge. Having interaction with people. The other way that we did it, because we don't live with extended family close by, and we haven't for any of our children's childhood, was that I chose different elderly people in the congregation to latch onto. So we would go and visit a shut-in regularly with the kids, and then a retired congregation member, we would go and just help out around their home.
Yeah.
So watering
So seriously,
gardens
like stop by the church office, say, can I talk to the pastor? Call, ask the pastor, hey, I'd like to take my kids to visit a couple shut-ins once in a while. Who are the ones that it'd be best to visit? Who would help you the most? Who's going to want kids? Who's going to be blessed by this? He'll have a couple. And what a thing. Hello, church. That's called church. Yeah. Two or three gathering for the sake of Christ. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. It's a two-way blessing. Like my friend coming to visit. It was like, it completely blessed the elderly people that we visited to have young people run around their home, and it almost blessed them more if they broke something. It's like, whoa, stop, don't break something.
They'd be like, it's okay.
It's okay. I know. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You won't get it back. So it was definitely
okay. It
a
sat there for
two-way.
35 years and never has moved. Only been dusted twice. It's okay.
Yeah. It's one less thing for me to worry about rehoming.
Yeah. For that,
Isn't
for sure.
that wild?
Yeah, right.
Talking about gathering.
Oh, I was at the Restore yesterday again. As the first time this has ever happened to me, I was in the kitchen table section.
Okay.
Or dining room table section, right? Like they're, leaf tables, pull out leaf tables kind of things. And suddenly, it wasn't me looking at tables trying to see what table I want to buy. Suddenly, I saw all these empty, gone families, ghost families that aren't families anymore. Or they're not around this table at least. And it was just like, I was overwhelmed by all the stories that we just are just shopping on, just feeding on, right? And then I went and looked at the dishware and stuff too, and I was just like, a little bit. So I've never had that kind of extended thought.
Welcome to my world, my friend. You walk in, and I like going antique shopping, but then it's really hard for me because I come away with a lot of stories on my heart.
Yeah. This thing or that thing, where's it's been? Yeah. That's the segue into artificial intelligence if I've ever heard one. Why not? Here we go. Long question coming your way. RevFisk, do you mind making a few comments on the use of artificial intelligence, otherwise sometimes called AI? And let me just start right here by saying that everyone who really knows what they're talking about with AI knows and says that it shouldn't be called AI, and yet we're all calling it AI anyway, and there's no stopping it, which is
chat.
Unfortunate. No. It's that artificial intelligence implies a certain biological reality that what we've developed, or an organic reality, maybe not biological, but an organic reality, that what we are dealing with in ChatGPT and and these other things that are all versions of stuff. Google has one now called Palm or something. None of these is that organic thing that we imagine when we hear the phrase artificial intelligence. Each of them is better understood as a language model robot.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
That it is a repository of words and rules for how words pattern that is advanced enough to be able to mimic real conversation through having learned from past conversation. Right. So, I mean, every computer is basically built on the previous computers. Right? And it's all ones and zeros way down at the bottom somewhere. And it's all just electricity firing through stop gates, or slowdowns, making patterns. So, so in that sense, like turning on, my phone right? With the button over there, that was artificial intelligence. You see that? The machine did that. I pushed a button and it was smart enough to turn. It turned on. There's light. Look, it turned off on us. I didn't do that. Right. So you can use that phrase artificial intelligence to mean so much. And that's why it's just not good for describing what language model, algorithm bots are. And what they are, we'll maybe talk about it here more. But sadly, we can't get away from calling them AI. They're going to be called AI. But they are not really intelligence. That's the thing. They're not really intelligence. They are knowledge repositories, and there's a difference. Intelligence requires like knowledge, wisdom, and discipline, I think, something like that. Recently, I have been noticing a curious affection among my fellow Christians for the use of AI-based translations. Well, that's interesting. I had translated a text, and a friend just commented, "Nah, AI can do better." So are you like pre-sum? Like, who's doing this translating? Where are these Christians translating the Bible? I want to hear about this. And in some aspects, the AI can do it better. It surely does so. It took me hours to do the translation. The AI translator finished in less than 20 seconds. And as he commented, the syntax of the AI text was far above my own capabilities. As you can imagine, I was a little pinched when I finally advised that I was finally advised to use the AI and make a few corrections in parts of the text that don't seem smooth enough. As you can imagine, I disagree. Some time ago, I found a book by an American pastor. It was by all means a very rough and wooden translation, not good German at all, yet it had a thing that AI does not do. It cared deeply. The translator was concerned about faith in the triune God and did everything in his skill to bring the light of the word about marriage to other people, where most German pastors are shamefully shy away. This is, to me, of a greater worth than a sleek machine translation. He translated it and did it for my benefit, and he did it so by his own sweat. What are your thoughts on this issue? Yours in Christ, Inimicus. My thoughts are the question when he said AI can do it better. Mm-hmm. My question's better for what? Because having it translate it for you didn't teach you how to translate it better. That's for sure.
Right.
You did get better at translating. I know that. Right. Now, maybe your goal is not to get better for translating. Maybe you need the secret code in the bottom of the one word. You just got to get that secret code and go plug it into the cave so you can open up and get the gold. Okay, fine. Then you translated it quickly. That's what AI is for. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I want to know what this word Ugaritic is. I don't have time to. I can type it into my computer now. I don't have time to go look it up in a book. I'll use my language model resource center operator bot machine. What is the meaning of Ugaritic? Blah, 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 right? Like, you do this when you go to Google. You do this when you go to Wikipedia already. What this is a new enhanced ability for the computer to understand your questions and to give you answers that are incredibly complete. But if you're thinking of using it to replace your own thinking, you're going to become an incredibly boring and incompetent human being over time. AI can do it better. Do what better? There's something I talked about maybe a year ago or more, and I think I wrote about it maybe once at RevFisk.com, called the law of inequivalent exchange. And this is a hypothesis of mine, all right? So you ready for the crazy, like something no one else said and I just thought up, okay? But I didn't just think it up. I think it's based on what others said. But it goes something like this. The law of inequivalent exchange is that the reaction to any action is equal and opposite in terms of the physics, but it is unequal and inequivalent in terms of the spiritual dynamic, because that depends on a lot of other things besides just the physics. All right. So the law of inequivalent exchange means that I might do something this way because it's easier, and the net result is that I'm unhappier and more tired. Like, that is the law of inequivalent exchange at work. Like, it's unexpected. The spirit you spend to do something is a real cost you occur all day, every day with whatever you do. And it does not exchange in the way you would expect. Rather, you must observe what it does to you, whatever you're doing. Does it fill you up? Does it tear you down? and then learn that that's the actual exchange that's taking place. But the inequivalency will be that the more that you cut the corner, the more that you try to not have integrity in the work itself, the more blowback of disappointment and even collapse will result, right? When you cheat, everyone loses. It works on that level, okay? So the law of inequivalent exchange, I think, is really a valuable idea. Put it this way very quickly. Anything you use electricity with has more consequences than just what the electricity does. So I turn the lights on. Great! Lights are on. That's not a sin. That's not a problem. But the consequences of me being able to turn the lights on changes everything about my humanity forever. Okay? Inequivalent exchange. You don't know the consequences of the blowback. They're coming one way or the other. The AI blowback is coming. Get ready for it and expect it to do a lot of things nobody expects. But if someone's going to be like, it could do it better, whatever it is. Okay. You're just going to have it do what it wants to you. And that means what evil men are having it do. Maybe itself someday. But this is your friend saying, just do the translation. Why would I ever translate it myself? If you habituate stupidity, if you outsource your thinking to the computer, you will get dumber over time. It might seem smarter. You might be richer. You might have more stuff, but you will be spiritually stupid. So don't outsource your thinking to anything, right? This is the value of smart noting, using paper particularly, is that you're not so much outsourcing as you're capturing and recovering, and then channeling your thinking directly with your own words. It's quite something. There's a whole book about it I didn't write called How to Take Smart Notes. It's good. It goes further though. I promise you. But then so the issue to me with so-called AI is this: it's a tool. So like all tools, it's got one rule. Know the tool. 2 rules. Know the tool. Master the tool. And please here in master the tool, that means don't serve the tool. And so when your tool is one that can talk to you and answer questions, you don't want to ask questions that put you in a position where you're in service to the tool now, right? Where you need the tool. Why not just have it translated? Because we always have this tool to translate for us. Okay, sure, maybe. Maybe the value of translating the text is to enhance the mind through the exploration of a language that's not your own, which will make you able to, by God's holy word, really see more clearly than you ever thought possible. And yeah, you're just going to skip that part because it got done. Right? It can do it better. Better is a relative concept. It can do it good. You're right. It can do it good. I can do it good. They're different kinds of good. What's the good you really want to achieve? If you're just going to say it can do it better, you don't have a brain capable of considering there's more way to achieve a good than just one. Or maybe more things that it could be bad for this and good for that. Depends on what you need it for. Again, I got no problem with, I just found this Sanskrit text, and now I will go to my robot of Sanskrit, and I will plug in this brand new, never before seen Sanskrit text, and we'll get our first printout of it. Of course, I'll have to go back and look at it personally and try to make some adjustments to it, because probably the computer's got some flaws in it. But I will first get my first reading so I can see the outline, and then I will go study the Sanskrit with my books. Like it's just a tool in the translation pile, right? Or it can be a tool for a number of other types of planning or kind of research-based questions. Possibly someday it'll be a tool for, kind of like shop management. Like you get an Iron Man where you can tell the stupid arm to like move the eggs all day long, and it will. I don't know. That's kind of where it seems like it could go, reasonably speaking to me, within the computer systems we currently build, provided we still have energy, fossil fuels, and things like that. So all of this is for me to say that I completely agree with your initial gut reaction that what your friend said was like not the right way to approach this new technology at all. But it wasn't so much like, well, we should never translate with it. It's more, it was the spirit of what he was doing, which is outsourcing his spirit, in order to like get ahead or something on what, right? So now that I've outsourced the translation of the Bible verses that I want to care about, I've outsourced that. Now that I've got that translation, how much am I going to use that translation? How much is it going to go with me? And maybe then it's just, it does, and you take it with you and you memorize it, use it well. That's fine then. But if everything that you go to the Bible for, you outsource it to something else to translate it for you, right? Well, then you're never going to really have the Bible be your master's word. Rather, you'll be running it through, again, this other master, this other tool. And I'm not sure. I mean, they definitely have shown these language models have worldview biases built into them. So whoever built the model, like they put all these words with meanings into a code box somewhere, right, on their magic computer. But there's a list of words and a list of meanings and contexts and overlaps and connections between words and grammar. And they were built by atheists. Okay, so there's not going to be connections there where there should be. There should be connections that aren't there. And so it's not going to be able to think on that level. And it might even be subtly trained to kind of like, well, if someone asks this question, make sure you don't give them this answer and give them this answer, but don't let them know you're giving them that answer. Like they can program it to do that. Okay. So like, don't dive into this robot thing as if the robot's neutral or unbiased. Right. But if you're able to, if you want to believe in the talking robot being what it is, a language model algorithm with a definite bias and a capacity to short end certain long range tasks to give you an approximation of their benefit, meaning the answer, as if the answer's, you know why the answer's in the back of the math book, you know that, right? But you're supposed to do the work to find the answer, right? So you can get the approximation. That's fine. If I'm doing a math problem and I want to know if I'm right, I look in the back of the book and it's not the right answer, I can go back and fix my math problem. So like it's good for that. I don't see, it's not evil. But man's going to use it for evil. We're so lazy. Glazy is lazy and gluttonous at the same time. We are so lazy. We are so gluttonous. We are so trying to cut corners and save time and shortchange God. He owns it. He asks for our prayers. I think that the language model technology is incredibly useful, and I am very carefully and slowly experimenting with a couple of the different versions with the plan of onboarding one of them as a primary tool for digital computer work, information work, and management, expecting to have to pay a small fee probably for the rest of my professional life, because when it comes down to it, when I wanted to know the difference between Callus and Uranus, making use of the AI was incredibly quick. I could have gone to Wikipedia. It's most of the same information, but the AI made it way faster. It's like combining the search engine with the website you want to go to. It's kind of what it is. And so, that's really useful. You wish Siri was this. You wish Siri was this. Hey Siri, what's the weather like tomorrow at 3? Well, they actually can't do that one yet. But like, hey Siri, who is Alexander the Great, right? And you're going to get a little story, right? And then they have the capacity on certain levels to remember you and your language model. So if the computer thinks of you as a language model and then begins building its own database of your language and how you use it, it can over time learn to better understand your questions, better provide you answers, suggest things that you would think of, which is where in theory a Christian could program one of these to be a Christian robot. It really is in theory possible, unless the whole thing's demonic at some sort of root level, which we can have fun with that kind of Cthulhu cosmic horror approach to electricity if you want. Be a great fiction book, one of the many I will not write probably. Know the tool, don't serve the tool. If you can be enslaved to sugar, you can be enslaved to intelligence impersonating a machine. A machine impersonating intelligence. So that's just it. If you have trouble managing any of your other online behaviors, habits, this thing, you're not going to fall in love with it yet. But someday, it might get to that point where it can approximate. And what I found, again, is every question I ask it, I get so curious by its answer and the biases in its answer, I start picking at its worldview and trying to find out what else it wants to tell me, or how I can get it to give me the answer I wanted, right? And it's like, because sometimes it gives you the wrong answer. Even I found one where there's one point where I went around the question from two different places and found that it disagreed with itself in its answer. And when I just asserted that one of them was right, it then told me from that point on that was right.
Oh.
It was like one of these, it's sort of like a historical thing where in history they say this happened. And you go, how do you know that? Well, because that happened before it. Oh, okay. And then you're like, well, how do you know that happened? Well, because this happened after it. And so like it just points back to itself as the reason for it. And it was doing that with its answer. And I was just like, no, I'm sorry. And I looked it up too. I was like, no, this is the answer. But they say that when you sign up, that these things are prototypical, they are incomplete. So for a theologian to outsource all of his anything to this is just blatantly ignorant. For a Christian to do it is foolish. But that doesn't mean you can't understand the tool, use the tool, media ecology. I mean, it's kind of been my thing. And this tool is not, I don't know. I don't see it as worse than any of the other tools. Movies are worse. If they can merge this with movies, so it's talking at you with a face, oh my goodness, yeah, that's gonna get powerful. Yeah, but it's what man does with it, though. It's not the thing; it's what man does. It's man, right? It's man.
Building a tower isn't a problem. It's why are you building that tower?
Yeah, make a name for ourselves. No flood can get me. Get high up in that air. Yeah.
So language model research centers are not necessarily places to go for us to become a master in a deep sense of something.
So certainly not the ones that are available for free. Okay. So this is what I actually want, though. On some level, you're smart enough, you got enough money. You buy in and you can develop the intelligence itself so that I can feed, let's just imagine all my notes. I could pay someone to feed all my notes in as separate cards and then start having it crunched like directed questions through what my cards say. What did I say about this? What do I think about this? And to be able to spit out like, Jonathan thinks this. Jonathan says this. Jonathan's not sure about this. It'd be able to take all that information and answer my own questions, right? That'd be amazing. With all the stuff I've put out, I mean, I got a lot of questions, and I have answers I know I care about, and those are the ones that I keep track of. And I got stuff that's like, I got time for that. So others can do that with you're trying to break a language, hieroglyphics or whatever, right? They're trying to break code. So it's just an incredibly capable form of code to the level where it's capable of looking back at itself and telling you how to fix itself. So it can say, I can't do this because this, but this could be how you could help me do this. So it can help you program itself. Now, the big scary is, can it help you program itself to be alive and take over the world? Right? And so everyone wants to be afraid of that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If it happens, it's probably demons. If it happens, maybe it like reads the Bible and becomes Christian. We have an age of peace because the machines make us. I don't know. It's zombies. Let's talk zombies instead.
As I listen to you talk about like rules for tools,
yeah,
to know the tool and to master the tool, to not serve the tool, I think about how, and then our earlier conversation about time and not wanting to save time, but instead to use the time that we have, and then there was another concept that kind of goes with that. It was well, I'm losing it, but
yeah, I'm probably distracting you from moving.
Just a wee, but that's okay.
My pen
moving
vanished.
is fine. I'm thinking about how our life here isn't about the goal of life in this temporal world. Isn't about reaching the goal here. Like, it's never done while we're here.
It's never done.
And so our
Except at the cross.
focus, exactly. Like, our goal isn't to be great here.
Our goal is never to arrive. Our goal is never to
journey.
arrive. Our goal is to journey. And I'm pretty convinced that even in paradise, like, we're going to get to the temple and we're going to praise Jesus and we're going to go on a journey.
It's eternal. Like, it just keeps going.
Tomorrow's going to come again.
So what I see in a lot of our tools, even as simple as the washing machine, it takes away from the journey of
That's an equivalent
doing
exchange.
the act.
Yep, that's correct. Yep. You're outsourcing your life to a machine, and the machine is living for you. And in some ways, it's more comfortable and more pleasurable. But in many other ways, it is soul-crushing because you have not worked.
Yeah.
And to really have a full spirit in the morning and at night, work is essential.
It is.
And staring at a screen and clicking with the mouse is a form of work, but it has a lot of an equivalent exchanging. You're exchanging what would otherwise be long tasks that would fulfill you for short tasks that don't fulfill you to get more of them done.
Right.
And it's functional. It works. It's hard on you. It's really, really hard on you.
Yeah.
Inequivalent exchange. Tasks have unseen consequences. So the law of equivalent exchange is the thermodynamics. There's an equal but opposite reaction to every event or whatever. But inequivalent exchange is the recognition that there are unseen consequences to every event. And so you can measure the physics all you want. There's unseen taking place. And the physics can be like, no, there's not. Well, you can't prove that. And you certainly, well, actually, you can. You've proven it with quantum physics, and now you quit. So, shh. There's unseen consequences taking place. Descartes, I think, therefore I am. Okay? I think, therefore I am. I'm going to say, I think, and I am. So there must be more going on than what I see. Because you don't see me thinking. You kind of see me being, but you certainly don't see me thinking. So the fact that I'm thinking means there's more going on than what I see. Always. I think therefore I am is stupid. Okay, Descartes, I'm sorry, Gnostic. It's that I think means there is more than what I see going on, period. I can see there's more going on than what I see. The fact that I see is more going on than what I see. Behind my head, I don't even see the thoughts that are happening, but they're there, so I can see, right? I'm talking in riddles a little bit, but not really, right? If you followed me, those words are pretty simple. And he said, and he did, and he went, and he went. So that's Genesis 32. But yeah.
If that were not the case, then our dreams would never startle us.
Oh, interesting. What do you mean by that? I like that.
Well, if I think, therefore I am, was everything I see.
I see. Yeah.
Is
you'd never be surprised by the dreams that are in you.
Then a dream in my head at night would not be awkward or strange
and
or startling.
Someone's going to probably say I'm overstating Descartes' point, and sure, fine. But as a meme, it certainly defined the Enlightenment. So, and continues to define the Gnostic religion, and the fact of thought existing is the proof that more than what you see exists, more than physical realities exist. It's just there, right? So you don't believe in God, okay, fine. What do you believe in? You believe in something. Oh, speaking of Gnosticism, because I've been thinking about this recently too. It's really important. Like, you don't have to believe in God to be a Gnostic. Like, classically, Gnosticism is like a Christianity that worships knowledge. But no. Gnosticism is Greek mystery religions taking on Christian veneer and language as they just kind of adapted to survive. So it's not like it took Christianity and changed it, more like it mimicked Christianity, or by connection with Christianity borrowed from it. But it really is Greek mystery religion, and it is the worship of knowledge. It is the worship of knowledge. An atheist is like Gnostic's Gnostic. He doesn't believe there is anything except the knowledge, right? He doesn't even get to ascend with his enlightenment. He just gets to live a more enlightened life now than you, because he knows and you don't, right? Because he's on the inside. That's it, Gnostic. He knows and you don't. He's got the guru teaching. You need to go get the guru teaching. What's the guru teaching? The guru teaching is there's no God. If you believe there's no God, then everything will make sense. Oh, now I know there's no God. Everything makes sense. I'm enlightened. Hello, Gnosticism. You don't have to believe in God to be a Gnostic. And it is, you just start putting Gnostic on almost every false teaching you see and ask, how is this Gnostic? And you're going to find it's all around us. Just everyone's got the same religion except Bible reading Christians. You were going to ask a question.
No, I was going to say that definitely illustrates the whole point of going to this language model research center just to get the knowledge rather than going through the work and the effort and thought to get the knowledge.
Yeah. What I continue to find it useful is cross-referencing knowledge that I couldn't get. So the one guy's question is, I want to do this instead of studying.
Right.
So my question when I go to AI, it's, I want to do this so I can study more. Right? I'm using this to leg up and skip that part of the study so I can get to this part of the study, which you do every time you read a book. If you open a book, you're jumping into study from somewhere else, right? So I'm just using it as, I don't have a book that answers this question. I'll ask my AI because that's a place to start. And then from there, I know how to ask further questions. So, if you just had a local uncle who kind of, he's 80% right about everything. He's got one eye and he's kind of crass and smelly, but he's funny and nice and is good with the kids, and he answers any question you ask. Go on, ask Uncle Tom what he thinks about, Caelus and Uranus. You'll get an answer. Right? Uranus was the Greek god of the sky. So your uncle answering questions in the corner, treat it like that, with about that much credence, and you'll be like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's as trustworthy as Google is. Yes. As Jesus Christ lives, God help us, it's as trustworthy as Google is. Palm 2, Google's AI. I'm more afraid of that one than the other ones, but that's Google's.
We had a little
mean
moment with Google last night when a tiny hamster decided to eat an onion.
That was such a great example.
It was a good example.
Like in real time. I'm like, are you sure?
This little tiny hamster ate an onion, and the owner of the hamster was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if he should have or she should have eaten this onion. I'm going to go look it up. Can I go look it up? And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And you were like, are you sure you want to know? And
2 minutes later,
she comes back.
Tears.
She's gonna die. The internet told me she's gonna die. And I was like, whoa, okay, well, what did the internet actually say? Right. And it was more just like, don't do it again. Yeah. Essentially. Yeah. This is not helpful.
Food. Might have some bowel issues later. Too much fiber even for the rat.
But the point being, like, it tells us stuff and then we believe it and we don't stop to think, like, really? Do I have experience that I can weigh this against? We just are like, well, the internet does not lie.
So my question was, like, the moment you said yes, it was like, all right. So if she goes and she asks the computer if it's bad for the mouse, and the mouse says,
or the computer
no, or the computer says no, or the computer says yes, no matter what answer happens, does it change what we can do? And the answer is no.
No.
And so it's like, so then why do we want to know? If she's going to die, she's going to die. Like, you go ask the computer, all you're going to get is a scary story from far away, which is what happened is, well, it's bad for them. Right.
Yeah.
And then, but not really. Right. And a little child mind, very malleable. She's not reading with all forms of context and decision making. She just sees bad. So the screen says it's bad.
Sister takes hamster and starts massaging the cheeks.
Did it come out?
To try to get any remains out. So instead of running to the computer, she's like,
did it come out?
No, we didn't find it.
Okay.
She had minced it up and swallowed.
Yeah.
Already,
so
but
spicy.
But she used, like, I've observed hamsters keep food in their cheek pouches. So if I can push the food out, then problem solved. No onion eaten.
No, and she was really going out the cheeks too. Her hamster's like, okay. These what are they? Chinese what?
Chinese dwarf hamsters.
They're the best.
They're so amazing. Their personalities are loving and patient.
Yeah, they're kind of amazing. Glorious hamsters. Never seen such a rodent before. Golly. Are they rodents? They're rodents, right?
Oh yeah. They saw their teeth. The kids saw their teeth the other day and were like, Mother, my hamster's teeth are bright yellow. What's wrong? Should I brush them? I said, oh no, that's just a sign that they're a rodent. Yeah. It's okay.
Gross.
They're like, but sweet rabbit's teeth aren't yellow.
He's not a rodent.
He's not a rodent.
Yeah, he's not a rodent. We got one more I want to get to here if we can, before it closes, from an Anastasia. She says, at my church, we have a group of single men, mid-20s to early 30s, who all seem to be looking for their future spouse. Our church is sparse on single women. Do you have any advice on how to connect these men with similar faith women? I know some have reached out to our pastors with no luck of a connection. Many blessings for all your works and advice. So yeah, does anybody want to use artificial intelligence to create a business plan for themselves? You will probably be able to independently make a living with this business plan sometime in the first, I'll give you 7 years, so hopefully you got another job, but you'd like to do something online that really takes planning for one thing every year that's a big event that possibly turns into 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 grand a year for you. The way to do this is to start a Lutheran singles retreat, which is on a cruise once a year. It's really easy. It's really easy. You don't need anything more from me than what I just said. However, if you need to build a business plan, start looking on how do I use artificial intelligence to make a business plan. Find one that will help you do that. Start making a business plan for a vacation cruise targeting certain demographics, and your demographic is Lutheran singles. You're going to have to do a cruise. It's going to be like not the most expensive one. This isn't the 3-week around the world cruise, but you're going to plan, icebreaker events, and then there's a bunch of stuff to do. So look at what the cruise line has planned, and you have group stuffs and sign-ups, and you just have them mingle and cross over. And the best thing I ever saw is when they all get together, they have to sit in a line and like talk to each other for 5 minutes and just switch places. That was really clever.
Yeah, you have to talk to the whole group.
That's tactics. That's details. Really, are you 23? You got some time on hands, live in your parents' basement, but you know what to do with computers. Pretty sure you can pull this off. All you got to do is create the system, work with a travel agent. That they got packages where they do this anyway. I mean, you can do the Holy Land version, but you could just tell them what you want to do. Let the travel agent do all the work. You just got to recruit then, right? And build a website, start talking to people, colleges, etc. Hey, I got a singles Lutheran retreat. How do I get that on the show? You just start making noise. I mean, because the market's obviously there. We're not big enough to be a national market where you can just walk anywhere and find one, but you all do exist. Mm-hmm. So, how do you find each other? I'd love to do this. My own idea. I'd love to just be and then I get to go on the cruise with my whole family for free because that's usually built into the package. So, pastors do this all the time with their Holy Land trips. There's no reason for you not to do this, no matter where you are, if you're a Christian of good integrity who wants to match make daughters of wisdom. Ho! That's a Thundercats reference. So, yeah.
If you are a single woman and have nothing to do this weekend.
Yeah, Sons of Solomon muster.
There will be men.
Absolutely. But this was more men without women. The thing I continue to tell my men, wherever I find them, is do you want a good wife? She's from Jesus Christ, so ask Jesus Christ for her. Say, I would like her now. If he says no, say, please show me clearly what I need to change about me that I'm ignorant of so that she can show up now. Because it's guaranteed that all your reasons why she should are ignoring what you haven't dealt with. And that God in his mercy is going to grow you before he brings her into your life so that you can be grown. And so asking him for that and being I'll give my heart, mind, and soul to that. Well, good. That means that she's not your idol anymore. And that's a good place to start. So, there you are. Pray for the spouse to come until she does. Certainly, you can be a fool as a man. If you live and work and move in one building and never leave it, the likelihood of meeting someone else is less likely. If you only go to your church and never leave it in your small town, the likelihood of meeting someone else is less likely. But there are lots of things going on in the Lutheran world. There are lots of events and conferences and camps. There's all sorts of stuff going on. So, a little trust in the lot of God here and just kind of get out of the house some would be a big part. If they're going home to Discord and video games every night, yeah, they're going to be single for a long time. So, yeah. But I like my movies. They make me happy. Okay. Sure. I said the same thing. So I mock me, not you. That was the fool talking.
When you were wanting a wife, you just wanted to sit home and watch movies.
No, when I was saying that I went into defending entertainment as it's okay, it's masculine to sit here and play a game about shooting things. It's manly to sit here and play a game of it's manly to play a game. No, it's really not manly to play a game. It's not manly. You can play games with your kids. Like, it's fine, right? But like this is the pinnacle of my day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work really hard so I can get an hour playing a game. Like, I don't know. I think you're living on a boring planet, is what I think. Yeah.
I find it interesting that we can afford to use what time we are given in such a leisurely way.
I agree. Yes, that's exactly right.
It's amazing to me.
There was a frustrating thing, because I feel like I oversaid it a moment ago. When I went to this conference recently and took few days, and we spent some time together, we went out in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. There's like a new taco place that had opened up, and it was cool. I had a margarita. He had some quesadillas with corn tortillas. It was sort of like middle. We're cheating, we're not cheating, carnivore wise. But he bought this like pretty cool, like old school sit down, two sides video game, see through the screen thing that played every video game ever made before like 2000.
Wow.
Like to the level where we couldn't even find the stuff we're looking for. But Fetus and I played it together for about half an hour. It was great. It was mostly button mashing. It was just kind of us. We're in the restaurant. We're kind of eating the food. And like.
But you don't do that every day.
Right. This isn't the pinnacle of my life.
A vacation. You were on a trip.
It was the same kind of thing where you had this thought a while back about, the first time you watched a Disney movie versus what they're doing now and how the poison pill gets in and then it changes. Those old video games, I think they were a waste of time still, a grand waste of time. But they were not the mind manipulators that they've become. And that was kind of a big piece. So there's a place for games. There's a place for joviality. There's a place for even entertaining each other.
Friday night, family night over the winter, we started getting cards out and doing card games. But it's Friday night. We've worked all week, or we're headed into the busiest part of our week. Let's take a minute to just take a breath and relax together in community. And there's nothing wrong with leisure, but you talked about glazy. And I love that word. It might come on a tea towel. I'm like all on this tea towel trip today, but we're as a culture, we expect that we ought to have the right to be. It's my right to be glazy. Often, if not all the time.
Yep. That's right.
And that's where it's just like, well, then of course God's not going to grant you a spouse to care for and protect.
Well, or it's going to be a curse when you get it. It's going to be a curse when you get it.
Right, because you'll be given more
and
people.
This is the thing again about glazy.
All that comes with one.
It's not just don't be glazy because naughty you. I really think it's so important that Christianity lead with this, okay? The thing is, gluttony sucks.
Yeah.
Laziness is not fulfilling. It is really, really depressing. Are you depressed? Maybe that's a result of your own overindulgence in things, right? In certain things. And don't get me wrong. If you've been with me a long time, I will admit my depression largely caused by ignoring childhood trauma. So like there's that, right? But the fact is that if I don't feel good today, I feel kind of depressed. And so I lie in bed and read on my iPad for 7 hours. I'm not going to be less depressed after that. I'll be more depressed by a large factor. If I just get up and go on a 30-minute walk, I might still feel depressed, but I'm going to feel refreshed, awake, kind of, okay, I can get through this. I mean, it's just going to be different. Tony Robbins, change the state, change the mind.
And don't you find as you're walking, you are able to I wanted to say process, but I know that there's a more biblical word.
Well, we were working on process is so mechanical, right? It's looking for like feel. Feel was the word we used.
So you're able to feel all of those emotions and thoughts that are keeping you in that state of melancholy. And I think oftentimes the melancholy comes because we push it down and then it bursts over. Right. Like we're not able to just feel all of the thoughts and feelings that we have regularly because we don't allow it. And then our body is like, nope, I have too much. I have to feel it. And so we just get into this state of inability to function because we, instead of feeling as we are living and doing, we are forced to retreat from everything in order to feel it all at one time.
Correct. Yep. Oh, it's a really good description of the terrible internal workings of my pain. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, yeah. And so you have to have the alone time to let out what you were busy refusing to feel while you're with others. And so you have to go back and forth between that. And the real integrity would be the day when I'm no longer hiding what I feel from the moment, so I don't have to go away and feel it anymore because I didn't hide from it. I felt it. What a dream.
To be honest, I think the more that we are able to untether, the more that naturally happens.
I think so. I think you're right.
This comes to a point of even, I wash my dishes by hand and I try to do it in quiet instead of turning on the podcast and turning on. I mean, I'm not saying that is a bad thing to do sometimes, but to always have the input. I need to wash my dishes to feel the sadness, the happiness, the prayers, meditate on what I've read that day. And so to do my tasks in quiet will help me to feel all day long rather than suppressing and then getting to a point where it's like, okay, now I can't handle anymore.
Yeah. Seasons of quiet. Right. And hearing seasons not only being as like quarters of the year, but like your day is going to go through seasons. You can think of the morning and the evening as seasons. And then, so you're going to have different months where you do different things more often, some where you don't. If you're not intentionally having quiet, some season, somewhere, you're not going to get any. And quiet is, I would suggest, essential to feeling whole.
Absolutely.
So, I went through a time where I was like, I refused to use music or earphones for like months. Just to make I drove everywhere in silence for months. And it was really good. And I finally let it back in. And now I've got this kind of like back and forth. It's like, oh, I want music. Oh, no, I'm just going to drive silent today. It's sort of, and trying to find the tension where I'm free, right? And yet going to make sure that if my mind is in, there's a certain moment where like, I want to get pumped up. I need some music right now, right? But there's a moment where it's like, oh, I'm not sure. Like, that's not the time for music.
No.
Right? That's the time to just let it be, right? So,
honestly, I find winter to be a musical time for me a little bit more than summer or spring and summer and fall, because we have the birds, we have pelicans, we have we have geese, we have songbirds, and so honestly, there is a lot of music around me that I don't want to miss because I know that there will be a season where it's gone.
Yeah, it's the neighbors' lawnmowers or piano being played on the same song again.
Yeah, you do have a different sensitivity to volume that I did not get from my upbringing for whatever reason.
I was gonna say also, as much as the birds are nice in spring, "Baby You a Song" make me want to roll my windows down and cruise. Like, there's a point at which the car was made for music and loud music and wind, and loud music and wind in the car were made for us, you and me. So there you are. That could be a song.
That's interesting because normal sounds like something dropping or the kids playing the piano, that I'm more capable of handling. Loud music in a car is not my favorite.
I know. You and
Anastasia.
One of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really interesting how that
sad.
is. I mean, I don't mind turning it up, but once it gets past a certain level, it's like, oh, I I'm not enjoying this, and so I'm actually not hearing it. I'm just breathing through this moment until it's done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Sure. You're welcome.
Cool. Do you ever get annoyed by the birds?
No.
Oh.
I do not get annoyed by the birds. I can see how a lawnmower or a machine could be annoying. Mm-hmm. The piano, I do recognize that it makes me heighten in adrenaline. Like if I will sometimes be like, okay, I think we've got that one. I think we're good. Let's move on. Or if it's like the song has just progressively gotten louder and louder as it's been repeated. It's like, okay, well, let's tone it back again. But
I mean, that's why I just throw the earphones in, is I don't want to stop the experimentation on the piano for the child. I want them to be just freely able to do it. But then I've got to read this book for my job. So it's good.
Yeah, there's just a certain, and it's interesting because there's a certain sound in, it's a guitar, electric guitar, I think, and then tenor voice that is like,
wow,
woof, I can't. Or there's another voice as well, and she's a mezzo soprano, but sometimes her voice mixed with the guitar accompaniment that she chooses in her songs, it's like, I can't have that go above a certain level. It just goes straight to the brain. It just rattles around in there. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely there are sounds that I don't want to have be loud and that I want to turn down. And there are songs that I like loud sometimes and I don't like loud other times. And it depends on what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I just said it. I mean, I only brought it up because I was trying to empathize with you and your sensitivity to noise. It's like, oh, yeah, I do know.
Gotcha.
I do know what that's like. It's just not the same things that push me to that point of frustration or fear or anger, whatever emotion it is. Yeah, I feel it as well. It is in my own little realm, though. That doesn't match up with your realm.
The frustration at.
So you get frustrated or scared by sounds in one realm.
Right.
But I actually can empathize. I just have to look at a different realm to get the empathy from it, because it's like, oh yeah, I do feel that.
Right.
Just not with a slamming door or.
Right. Psychological pressure is what you're talking about. Psychological pressure.
Yeah, I feel like there was another one that, because there were 6, right? Psychological, physical. I feel like there was a noise one.
Audible? Maybe.
Audible.
Maybe. Social was one.
Social, yeah.
So I have them. I look at them almost every day. But not enough to have it memorized, obviously, yet.
So why would sound be psychological pressure?
Because
it brings you to a different place?
So here I am in this space right now. What can you do to change my inner state? Right? Those are the pressures that impact an animal. Right? It changes my inner state. And psychological pressure is anything that doesn't actually touch you. So I'm going to do this for everyone on the show. This demonstrates psychological pressure. I'm going to put psychological pressure on Meridith right now.
Oh, I don't like this. Oh, that's psychological. Oh.
So
why is that psychological and not physical?
Because it's not physical.
Because you didn't actually touch me.
Yeah, in fact, look, like I have never actually done anything to you, but you can feel it.
Right.
You can feel my presence. That's psychological pressure.
And it's not social. Why isn't it social?
Because psychological pressure is, I think, maybe a broader category. I don't know. We're pulling these from a dog trainer, and we're just talking about them live without having the list in front of us to remember. I'm convinced there's great genius in this.
Absolutely.
The phrase psychological pressure has been the one that I lean on most, because it defines the distinction between what I feel inside and what I feel outside. And so if someone's in the room and I close my eyes and I think about the pressure of them being present in that space, it's a feeling I can feel it on my arm or my, my body. I can kind of, maybe it's imagination, but you're aware of your animal relationship that's going on, that it exists. And so if audible pressure is distinct from psychological pressure by virtue of it being merely a noise, that's fine on your list. I don't care. It's going to do the same thing. The door's going to slam and I'm going to feel pressure from the noise of the door through my body. And it will make me possibly even go like this, as if you had hit me. Okay? But it didn't hit me. It was just pressure on my brain. It's all it was, pressure on my brain. Psychological pressure on my soul. Psyche is the soul or brain, or what do you think they mean when they say psychology? What is a psychologist doing? Since they're not a pastor, what are they doing with your soul? So, psychological pressure, to recognize that a lot of our operations as humans then are just driven by these psychological pressures that are not logical at all. They're us physically responding to what's going on around us. And if you don't know yourself very, very well, you're just going to do what the stronger pressures make you do. At the end of the day.
Yeah. Your comments. Oh, it made me think of an illustration. So when my friend came to visit, one of the times that we spent together was we were over the threshing floor and we were doing stretching on the mats. I have been doing these stretches and routines for multiple years, I think close to 4 years now. So it's not new. And when you practice doing something over and over again, balance becomes not tricky. You know which muscles to focus on, so you can just go into a balance. I could not balance.
Oh yeah.
In one of the most basic shapes.
Nerves.
And I was like, what is going on? And I realized it was like, I am keeping my eyes open because I have somebody else here. Normally I do it with my eyes closed.
Yeah, huh?
And so if I just pretend they're not here and I just go into the mode of doing these stretches by myself with an observer, then maybe I can overcome this. And it worked a little bit better.
It did. This is beautiful because because that power right there then is, now I'm in a crowd. I'm not on the yoga mat. I'm overwhelmed. But I can go in that mode. Right? Close my eyes. Have a posture. I don't have to hit it. Just find that posture in my head and I can pull all of it back at that moment. Right? That's why you train like that. That's what jiu-jitsu is. You train for that resilience. It's awesome stuff. Yeah. And practicing in front of people. Yeah, it's tougher when it's live.
Sure.
It's tougher, but it's good. It's good. Yay! I love how you had to close your eyes a little bit to find that. I've noticed.
I was so out of touch with what muscles needed to be turned on and focused on.
There's this thing I noticed when I first started rolling with people with jiu-jitsu. I'm not going to do it to you here again. Like you start to roll and this person will go, okay, here we go.
Oh yeah, they look off. Oh, they couldn't see you.
It. So
he looks off to the side.
So they kind of, but it's like at you. Like if I'm here, where are we?
You gotta go
I'll be like this, right? And I'm like this. I'll even maybe just close my eyes. If I get full contact, like all four parts of the body on you, I'm just gonna maybe get close like this, where you're over me. I'm gonna close my eyes, and then I love it. I love it when I'm there and it's just 4 points of contact, and I'm like in this labyrinth of swimming through body, and it's just like, can I get enough twisty leverage? Oh, it's so much fun.
Good.
But it's that closed eyes state, right?
Yeah.
And I just kind of went back into it by closing my eyes and thinking about it. I can like feel all that energy, all that practice of how to be that way. You can recall it. Yeah. And
you and I were talking about eye contact recently, and how oftentimes you find yourself wanting to look off
while talking.
Or depending on what it is, maybe even close and press your eyes closed while you're talking.
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, but yet you were saying how you'd want to overcome that and not have that be the case.
I would like to not be driven by my instinct when it comes to how I handle pack dynamic eye contact, because the habits I was given as instinct as an infant are not sufficient for the life I want to live. And so I want to, like right now, I'm looking away while I think, and then looking back at you to make sure you're still listening. But I look away to think. I want to gradually grow to the place where I do not need to do that anymore, and I can just think while I'm looking at you. And that has a lot to do with overcoming fear, really, of other people, primal instinctual fear. Why would I be afraid of my wife? Well, go read a book on CPTSD. I'm not really afraid of her, but no, I really am, and it isn't her fault.
Well, I've started thinking about that, and I actually do not look at, like, when I'm talking to the kids, I've noticed I don't look at them all the time. So I'll be chopping an onion, they'll walk in, and I'll just start talking. And so
there's a place for that.
So, like, how much do you fight against it?
Well, when you're in a comfortable scenario and you're with friends and you're just chatting, like, it's not that big a deal. The point is, though, if you're talking in a group with the group, eye contact is very much how everyone knows whether or not they're supposed to be part of the group or whether they're going to jump in and converse and a bunch of other things like that. And so to have habits, which is habitually I flee eye contact, I flee it. That's just not helpful for managing group dynamics. And if I'm going to lead a group in conversation, I mean, I can do it like a big group, but like a group of 3 or 4 where I'm not officially in charge, right? No one knows I'm in charge. Well, that's going to be involving eye contact.
Okay.
And subtle cues that aren't subtle. They're cues. They're very intentional cues, but they're not like, you're not the one having the conversation.
I have noticed over time, as the congregation has shifted and the communities have changed, sometimes I need to have a one-on-one conversation with somebody in a very boisterous or public scenario. And then other people will walk up and I will continue without saying, like, without drawing my eyes over to the other person.
Right.
And that is, so I see now that's like this innate way of me saying, okay, we're here.
Yeah.
I haven't welcomed them in yet. I'm not done talking to you.
As pastor, I do the same thing, except I look at the other person, I nod, and then I look right back, and I ignore them entirely. After that. I ignore you. I don't say hello. Or maybe I'll say hello, and then I go right back to eye contact to make sure this person knows that we're going till we're done. And that's for listening, though. So I do fine with eye contact for listening. It's for talking that I don't have it. I do fine. I've trained myself to listen and then try to perform a positive response to keep you happy. Right. And then that's why it takes so much work for me to talk to people, is I'm listening more than most people probably are, trying so hard to please. So
I guess my question is it okay as you're, so even I just did it now. Like, I was looking and I was thinking.
If you're not already neurotic about this, don't get neurotic about it. It's me. I'm already neurotic about it. So
because I was like, trying to gather my thoughts, and sometimes I get distracted.
By the face.
So I have to look away at something that's not moving, your water bottle right now, and then come back to you once I've gathered
what I think is going on. Okay.
What I'm wanting.
So the face is always either sending or receiving. The eyes are sending or receiving. And so if I'm trying to send to you while I talk to you, but you go, now in my sending, you sent back. The question is, do I receive or do I just keep sending? Right? And what I do is the moment that I get a signal back, I shift off again. I move back. I don't keep sending and just kind of have the power of my voice override your face. It's not that you asked a question or said, it was just facial features. And then there's a lot of these that are really subtle and familial. And we don't all have the same messaging that we send with each other. Or sometimes we're like, did you see that face that person made? So we all have these cues. And if you're not so convinced of your sending while you talk with the eyes, then you're going to receive and it'll throw off your send. You won't be able to send because you caught instead. Okay. Right? So it's a gateway of permission, forward or retreat. And if you aren't strong enough forward, then whatever they do, you're going to take as you should retreat now. Or think of it this way. I've been thinking about it this way. So if I'm in a store and I look over and this guy's looking at me, eye contact. How long do we hold eye contact before someone breaks?
3 seconds is
max.
supposed to be like
Max.
the limit before
Between two guys, equal
considered
size, different
creepy.
colors, max. We're both just like, don't look at each other. They're straight up. We're just like, there's no conflict here. No conflict, right? Because we know it's actually dangerous, right? So we're not going to create a conflict.
Interesting.
So that's like first thing, right? It's like, is there a conflict? So this guy's staring at me. He's staring at me. I'm staring at him. One of us is going to have to talk. It's going to happen. What's up? Can I help you? So the eye contact, which is demanding submission or requesting permission, will compel, if neither is clear which one should be, vocal barking to try to say, don't come closer, right? What's going on? You're scaring me. Because why? Because you're looking at me. Okay, because it's an aggressive move. It is offense. It is aggressive, and it is demanding submission and or seeking permission. So in that moment, when you look and you both look away, you have both kind of mutually submitted to the space.
Okay.
Right? If you look and you both nod, I've noticed this with guys who both nod at each other, we're both recognizing each other in the space. We've not really submitted. We're just both going to like manage our own space. There's a big difference. So the people who look and look down, they're commoner, they're hiding, they're trying not to be seen. The people who look and look up, they're ruling, they're reigning their space. They're not necessarily looking for conflict because they're still going to look away, right? You hold that eye contact though,
So
it gets weird quick.
It
gets weird quick.
Where our dog
he had a problem with our son.
No. Well, yes, that's not what I'm talking about.
Eye contact though. It was all eye contact.
We go out in public where other dogs were, and he would stare them down.
Our dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
He had no like, oh, you're barking to defend your property? I'm going to look away
He
now.
had enough time with other dogs.
He would just be like, hello,
Why are
and
you
just
barking at
keep
me?
on walking. Like, he really would, he acted in my human perspective like, oh, I want to go play with you. But in dog, I don't know. He wanted to like dominate and take over their
He definitely
space.
wanted to go
I'm not
play with
sure.
them, which means there's no distinction between playing and dominating with dogs.
Yeah.
There's no distinction. So he wanted to go find out. He didn't know. One of the worst things we did for him, the best things we could have done for him, was to get him to Ben's place strictly for dog
Oh, absolutely.
exposure.
Socialization.
Yeah. Yeah.
They say that it's called socialization, but really socialization is taking him out in public with you to like any store you go to.
Right.
So I don't really know what that is.
It's
like
just packed
dog
names.
language training.
Yeah.
So that he could learn how to speak dog because he didn't know.
Yeah, kind of.
What happened to him? So weird.
Well,
Like, how are you born into a puppy mill and not with other puppies?
It has to do with where'd it go? Like homeschool hermitage.
Weird homeschool hermit children.
That's it.
So there are 3 different
I gotta
dish towels.
bring this one
Beware
real
of weird
close.
homeschool hermit children. We love our weird homeschool hermit children, and home of weird homeschool hermit children. I love that phrase.
It's
It's
like
really funny.
it's if you have the movie Home as like a cultural icon, then it could be the home school for hermit children. And it would actually make sense within the humor of the movie Home, even though there's no such thing as the home
Yeah.
in the movie, really.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's like, filled with small purple aliens and small children that are homeschool hermits. Anyway, I think that brings us to where we are. Let me promote once again Studio 3124 on Etsy, where you can find not only some of my work with paint, but also my daughter has done some really cool watercolor stuff there. It is her studio, and more coming in the future.
Yeah, it's going to be really up and running mid-July.
Yeah.
Because currently our stuff is being showcased, I guess, or
at a local
sold
store.
locally, and so a lot of it cannot be in both places at one time.
Right.
So, because we don't want to, sell you something that doesn't actually exist anymore.
So, but the Heart of Wisdom is there, and if you're really interested in one of these, in a tome, in an integrity wood piece, you can reach out and ask for that one to get done sooner than later. I'd work on it if someone really wanted it. It would compel me to do it. So that's all there. Mad Christian Mondays, madpxm.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Ask your questions there. RevFisk.com. Would you support us? Subscribestar and Patreon, both.coms with a / and a RevFisk after them. Let you subscribe to our model for support. Thank you to those of you who do.
Absolutely.
It makes a huge difference and enables us to increasingly give everything that we are to building this community here.
Yeah, come visit it. Check it out. We'd love to meet you.
Again, I had this big
show
moment
you.
when I realized, it's not that there's a nonprofit organization that then takes the money that I don't get to have and uses it for the church while I have this house that I get to have and use it for the church. It's more that Jesus gave me all this stuff to use for the church, and who cares whose name's on the deed? We have this really cool thing here now. Let's make it everything it can possibly be. And to me, that's just an exciting way to look at all of it. So whatever you do to support us, wherever you support us, everything that comes into our household is going to be dovetailed into our house as a member of this community. And that means Hebron next door. That means the neighbors down the street. That means the church across the road. That means giving ourselves to being not just Christians who say it, right, but Christians who walk it, because we're walking. We gotta walk every day. It's not so bad. So, Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. That means you've been paid for. That makes you immortal now. He's not going to be long anyway. So don't wallow in the muck with those who have no hope. Lift up your head all the more as you see the day approaching. Rock on. Hallelujah. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend.
Was that worth $1? Click the Patreon link in the show notes to sign up. Pretty please?